Boom, 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 everybody. We are back for another amazing episode of The Color of Motion, where I like to say, hey, stories come in all shades. And my name is Don Terrell, and I want to welcome you to another great episode. You know what to do. Jump into the comments and say hello, where you're tuning in from and all of that. So, I can give you the shout out that you so richly deserve while I check to make sure everything is rocking and rolling. But definitely make sure that you hop on over to the Facebook group community. Join us. We're having a lot of fun over there. You can connect with a lot of great professionals there. Facebook.com/groups/The Color of Motion. Let me throw that back up here real quick again. Facebook.com/groups/The Color of Motion. Come join the family. We would love to have you for sure. So definitely make sure you get plugged in there as well. Mr. DeMille, I knew you were going to be the first one in the in the studio. Appreciate you tuning in, brother, for sure. We were just talking about you there. Here we go. Yeah, and I was just telling my next guest, we are going to have an amazing show. So let's have some fun for sure. Also, just as a heads up, the store is open. So make sure that, you hop on over to the shop, pick you up some swag. My goal is to see everybody in some Color of Motion swag. Go to colorofmotion.net/swag and pick you up something. My only request would be, if you pick you up something, snap a picture of yourself so that we can share it on the show, share it on the social channels, and show everybody your Color of Motion pride for sure. So let's see what else. Make sure that you connect with me on all my social channels here. You can find me. I definitely want to hear from you. Let me know how the show's going, who you might want me to try and get on, and all that. I always love hearing from the viewers for sure. Like I said, we're here each and every Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Central Time, but live on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and the Facebook group. But I always encourage everybody to hop on over to the YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit the bell notification, give a thumbs up, comment on the episodes, because that definitely helps the channel. And there you're able to see all the great guests that we've had on so far. So make sure you get plugged in. Subscribe. All right. What else? Man, oh man. Like I said, I hope you are as excited about this episode as I am. I've been looking forward to having my next guest on for quite a while. So I'm just super excited that she's able to join us today for sure. What else? I feel like I'm always missing something. I don't know why. Mr. Michael, appreciate you tuning in there, man, for sure, and supporting the show. So thank you for that. Let me see. Like I said, I always feel like I'm missing out on something, but I know I'm not. If so, I just have to remember the next time. Like I said, with that, I think we can pretty much kind of get this show started off on the right track, don't you think? Right. Well, all right, all right, all right. We are back and getting ready to get this train on the track. So, again, make sure that you hop into the comments and engage. Say hello, because I definitely always try and make this an interactive experience for sure. So, without further ado, I think we can get started with this. My next guest is a California based visual effects compositor. Her story, however, did not start on the west coast of the United States. She was born in Kingston, Jamaica, which is, no, I did that wrong. So don't hate me, native Jamaicans, if my accent is like totally off. Which is also where she spent half of her childhood. She immigrated to the United States in 1992, where she lived in New York for her teenage years and most of her adult life. And as a child, art was always a safe place and space for her. Her fondest memory as a child was sitting in front of the TV with her black and white composition notebook, drawing the characters from the Nickelodeon's Rugrats. She knew she wanted to be an artist at an incredibly early age. Obtaining her bachelor's degree in graphic design in 2008 enabled her to jumpstart her career. She was excited to get into her field, but unfortunately, at the time, the economy was in recession, and it was difficult to obtain a design job. So she started working in various corporations, from conservation science to finance to law and publishing. Nonetheless, she stayed committed to her craft and continued to freelance in graphic design, landing her first illustration publication in 2012 by the National Academies Press. As she became older, she found that her art was becoming more versatile and her interest was growing into different areas. She has always been a lover of creature flicks and was fascinated with special effects and the art of filmmaking, especially within the horror and fantasy genres. We're going to dive into that too. Having studied the works of Jim Henson, Tom Savini, Rick Baker, Dick Smith, Stan Winston, and attending different workshops, she learned the artistry of special effects makeup. While still living in New York, she worked on small indie projects as well as haunted house theme parks and New York's Halloween Village Parade. However, she had a greater aspiration for herself and wanted to work in TV and film production. In 2018, she made the decision to relocate to California. She now has completed her master's degree in visual effects and attending the Academy of Art University has propelled her career by providing her with the opportunity to work in her first feature-length film, American Murderer. Wow, American Murderer 2022. She landed her first professional studio job at Encore Visual Effects in Burbank, California. To date, she has a filmography of 2 feature-length films, 1 independent film, and 11 TV shows. Never succumbing to artistic limitations, she is also working on a passion project, which we're going to dive into, which is a documentary highlighting social issues in her birth country of Jamaica. Her main goal being to educate and use her film to impact social change. Her favorite mantra is filmmaking is a multidisciplinary craft, and that is what she loves about it. It is a powerful tool that can be used to educate the masses in the most creative form. Her artistic expression is her livelihood. Everybody, please help me welcome my very special guest and friend, Miss Amanda Price. Oh, whoa. Hold on. There we go. Awesome. Amanda, I've been looking forward to this for so long. Oh, man. We definitely got to start by throwing in some claps here, Miss Chanel Price, who I'm assuming
is my younger sister. Hi, Chanel.
Appreciate your support and family and showing up to the show, Chanel, for sure. Awesome, awesome. Miss Aisha King. I appreciate that for sure. I love the Caribbean. Yeah, come to
Nah, you
Jamaica.
tried. You tried. I appreciate
I
that.
tried. Come to Jamaica. We can try. Hey, I said, don't hate me. I'll try my best, but I'm not gonna say I'm from Jamaica for sure. But appreciate you tuning in, Aisha, for sure. Oh man, of course, sister is supporting you for sure, Mister Downtown DeMille. Always a fan of Amanda. I know you
Hey,
are.
Demille.
Appreciate you. And Doctor
Oh,
Mall.
that's my other sister,
Oh, okay,
Dr.
okay.
K. She's a
Oh,
doctor.
okay. Well, throw that in there. Appreciate that. Mr. Michael, hi, Amanda. My sister's name is
It's Chanel.
Chanel. Chanel. Well, hers
You
is
probably
Chanel.
forgot
Her
L.
sister is Chanel. I guess you didn't get the rest of it off in there, Michael, but we get what you mean. So we appreciate that for sure. Like I said, we're gonna have some fun, and we're gonna dive into a lot of questions here, and um, kind of like before the show, whatever you don't want to talk about, just say, Don, I don't want to talk about that. So it will be good, for sure. I'd like to start. You said in your bio, art created a safe space for you. What do you feel like it created a safe space from?
Well, God, that's a good question. That is a good question. So, I never thought about that. Okay, so, and I could be completely transparent, right?
Be transparent. This, I don't want you to come on here and lie.
So, art has always been something that I've always been good at. Even I just it was just something that I gravitated to as a kid, and growing up in a Caribbean household, um, education is super important, and I don't want to step on no toes or anything, but um, art is not something that's celebrated in
Mm,
terms of, I think, in certain communities.
yeah,
um, where I'm from, not really either. um, there's certain things that people, um, the doctors, the lawyers, the attorneys, the teachers,
yeah,
and art has never been something that was ever, I guess, encouraged.
yeah.
When I was younger, I kind of found my love for art in school, and just doodling in classes, just always getting A's on art projects. It just allowed me to find myself and find my purpose, even as a child. And I would just grab books and just watch Nickelodeon cartoons and
Yeah,
draw and
yeah,
just be in my own little world and just kind of escape.
yeah,
When I say escape, it's art is I have a few escape things. Like gaming is one of them, and that happened as I got older. But when I was younger, for me, I, as a child, I guess it's kind of hard to say escape from reality, but I felt like it put me in a different headspace, and it gave me something to look forward to.
yeah.
And when I was younger, I actually wanted to be a cartoonist,
Oh, yeah.
because
Well, hey, that's
yeah,
something we had in common because
yeah,
that's what I wanted to do.
I was really big into Nickelodeon. I loved their characters. I was a big Tex Avery fan.
Oh,
I
yeah,
loved the old school Looney Tunes. I would watch those for hours, and I used to make flip books. And when I realized I was really good at it, I mean, in every grade, teachers would love me, and I'm like, this is my thing. Like, I feel like you kind of know from
yeah,
you're very young. Like, you don't have to try; it just comes natural to you.
yeah,
And that changed over the years, but it was definitely, I came here in 92, was a new country. I mean, I was young, but it's still a new environment, new people. I remember I had a very nice teacher, my first grade teacher. Her name was Miss Thomas, and she used to always love my accent. And I was I mean, I still have the accent now. I can switch back and forth. But when you're coming to a new country, I'm the little
yeah,
Jamaican kid, and She used to love me, and it's a different place, and it was just kind of my thing to just latch on to, that
Yeah,
I just loved. There's no other way to put it, really.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Now I
Hoping
think
I
art.
answered the question.
Yeah, you did. No, I think art kind of got a bad rap from that starving artist kind of thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
my mom was the same way. Even though she didn't discourage, she knew my talent, but
yes.
couldn't wrap her head around how you're going to make a living doing this, and
It,
really,
it I felt like in my household, it was almost like she's the artist, you know, she's the one who's creative. It's not like, oh, she's gonna go on to be this great, successful meaning making a lot of money
yeah,
type.
yeah,
Like, it's not celebrated like it should be. Like,
yeah,
people always, tell kids to draw and whatever as a hobby. It's not something that people aspire as a long-term career
yeah.
pursuit, as I should say.
Yeah, and I find it funny, that so many artists and creators that I talk to when they were young, they were saying, I didn't know people made a living, doing this, and they were watching cartoons, and it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
somebody's making it, but they just never thought that that was something that you could make a living doing. And I'm thinking that's how most start, they just have a passion for it, and it just comes natural. Like you said, it was the same way with me. Art just kind of came
yeah,
natural and just took you to this whole other different place, you know.
yeah.
Uh, let's throw a few in here. Mr. Michael, truth about art. Yep, my exception was my late father. Creating art and playing in the band was my influence, obviously. Yeah, and for me, like I said, family home life was not kind of the best sometimes. Like my mom and
Yeah,
dad ended up getting divorced when I was 9, and so for me, art was like you were saying. It was kind of an escape. My toys were my
yeah.
escape, and it just takes you to a different place for sure. Um, how did you get into you know creatures in horror? I mean, was that always a thing too? As far
Oh
as you
yeah. I mean,
loved,
I I watched my first scary film when I was like maybe 10.
what was that?
Um, oh my God, I have a list.
What was
So I don't know
what
if
was the scariest horror film you saw as a child?
they were never scary for me.
Oh wow,
I I give you a few. My favorite is The People Under the Stairs.
oh,
That's by
love that
Wes
one.
Craven, the
Yeah,
late Wes
Wes
Craven. Oh, you've
Craven.
seen it?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. A lot of people don't know that movie. That's a
yeah. Love.
classic.
Yeah, it was kind of a different movie. It really was. It was because that was like I said. The first one I was like, "Oh, there's some black people in here."
Oh, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why he's my favorite director. Um,
Oh,
that one, of course, the entire Nightmare on M Street. You know, you
okay.
gotta go. That's Wes.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
it kind
Um,
of lost me when they started pitting him against Jason, and But I love the
I
originals.
like that one though.
I
You
love the
don't like
original.
that
I don't know. Wasn't that
one? You don't want to
exactly?
get into it.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly one of my favorite ones. But like I said, I love the first kind of two or three. But
Yeah,
then, like I said, I felt like they were, just kind of reaching when they started.
yeah.
Okay, you. I
I'm a
guess you want to
I'm
keep
a
them
big
going.
lover of 80s horror film, the 80s genre in general.
Yeah,
Um, that's how I found my love of practical work.
yeah,
Ever since I was a kid, I've always been intrigued with animatronics, creature features.
yeah.
Um,
So what made
you
that
know,
switch for you? I mean, like I said, you could have went down that route as far as practical effects. What made the switch to more digital VFX as opposed to saying, well, let me go down, practical effects? Is it because now they're using more digital effects in movies and not so much practical style animation and VFX or
okay, so actually, I'm very like inquisitive and curious. And I've always been the type of person, whenever I'm watching films, this is why filmmaking is my thing. Um, I always want to learn, like, how do they do that? Like, how is it possible for them? There's a scene when I was a kid I could never get over. It was the transformation of Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator,
Oh yeah,
where he
yeah, yeah,
has like this metal thing.
yeah,
And back then, I was like, that's dope.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean, I was a kid, I didn't know nothing, but I was like, that's dope. Like, how do they do that? How do they
yeah.
make that transformation? And even T2, as you know, is like one of the it's like one of those main VFX films that of the for the time,
Yeah.
it was really groundbreaking. And for me, I actually started off in practical. I mean, just my love for filmmaking. Before I even relocate to California, I came over here in 2012, going to the Monsterpalooza convention.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, sorry. I'm like, what just happened?
Monsterpalooza, is that in, where's that? New York or?
That's in California. I actually flew over here in 2012 from New York to go to Monsterpalooza, which is the conventions of all conventions for anything horror related. All the effects artists are there. That's where I met Tom Savini for the first time, who is a makeup effects legend. If anyone knows who Tom Savini is, they
Yeah.
should know. Look him up. Friday the 13th, Creep
Yeah.
Show.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
he's he's one of the big ones. So when I was in my I'm very bad with timelines, but I'm gonna try my best. So I've always been super fascinated with, animatronics and creatures, and I wanted to delve into that, but I didn't see a way. So for me, I started learning how to do my own practical work,
Mm.
buying latex appliances, buying silicone appliances, and going to different workshops and applying it on myself, applying it on people. I got really good at it. And then that's when I started working at different haunts in the city. And I was like, I could probably make a career out of this. That's why I came over here to the convention. And I was like, I wanted to meet people. I wanted to see what it was about. And I came to California in 2012 for the first time, and I absolutely loved it. And like I was saying before, that's where I met Tom. Then I met Shannon Shea, who was the makeup effects artist for, I believe it was Predator.
Mm.
And
Wow.
I met some other people. Yeah, and these are phenomenal artists that's worked in the industry.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had to make sure like it was feasible for me in terms of finances, and also what direction was the industry going in. Because I feel like, I'm not even gonna say I feel like, I know if I was 25 in 1986, I'd be making a killer, because that was kind of the early 80s was kind of the beginning of like practical art and experimenting. And
Yeah.
back then you could Tom Savini was experimenting on different people, and we didn't have a lot of the laws that we have now. And they're good laws, because a lot of the stuff is toxic now,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
you can't, but back then it was more of a different era where there were a lot of cheesy horror films. And VFX was so new. Everybody was so enthralled by a lot of the prosthetic work. And back then, I would have had a career. Not that you can't have it now necessarily, but if you want to stick to practical effects, it's very, very niche. And
Yeah.
most of the times, if you want a good job, you have to be a part of the union. They have a lot of requirements, and it's just not something that's very lucrative if you don't like know people, if you haven't been in the industry for a million years.
Yeah.
So for me, um, I kind of it's it I want to say the shift was two things. The shift was I wanted to learn more about effects on a whole, because I think visual effects is very expansive, and it's a beautiful thing for filmmaking.
Yeah.
And also in terms of stability long term, it would be the better route to go. And also, with my inquisitive nature and how I want to figure out how to do stuff, I want to learn every aspect of effects for filmmaking. So, not just practical, pyrotechnics, whatever. but also what is the digital aspect of filmmaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't even know about. Did I just freeze up?
Yeah.
Can you
You're
can you
good
hear me?
now. Yeah. You're
Hello?
good. Yep.
Okay. I didn't even know what green screen was
Mm.
on until I started delving into, some of my own research and VFX and going to school. I didn't know what all of tracking markers, all of those things. I didn't know what those things were. And I've always just been very enamored by the just making things and how are explosions done and how do you have I don't know if you've watched, you're pretty sure you've watched Planet of the Apes, the new
Oh
one,
yeah. Yeah.
where they have the motion capture. I never knew any of that.
Yeah.
And I just think that it is such a beautiful form of artistry. Not to take anything away from practical effects, because I mean, I've molded things
Yeah.
and, I've baked things that you have to sculpt. And there's something that is so unique about working with your hands and putting something on someone's face, painting it,
Yeah.
by stroke by stroke. There's something very intimate about that. They used to do matte paintings and paint on glass.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore a lot. They used to make miniatures, and that's what I love about traditional art form of kind of effects, you would call it,
Yeah.
molding and sculpting and painting things hand by hand. And those things are very, for me, it's very, I want to say refreshing. Um, Very different than sitting behind a computer all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're more interactive with the person you're working with. You get a sense of the person and the environment. When you're working digitally, as any digital artist would know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a painstaking thing sometimes. I mean,
But
you
you
behind a
but
computer all day.
you're right. You do get an appreciation, and maybe somebody in the audience can help me. But they used to have a show on the Sci-Fi Channel. And I can't think of
Face
the
off.
name of Face Off. Yes. I used to love watching that show
Yeah,
because you just saw the whole process of how people
yeah.
came up with practical creature effects and makeup and all of that. But like you said, it is such a niche thing. Some things are so niche,
Yeah,
but when you
yeah.
see the work, like I love stop motion, and I don't know, I'm pretty sure you've seen
Yes,
Guillermo del
absolutely.
Toro's Pinocchio. Just
Yeah.
watching the behind the scenes and how they put it together, it just gives you such an amazing appreciation
Have
for
you
the
seen
art
Wendell and
form.
Wild?
Yes, Wendell and Wild.
Wendell and Wild was dope.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So amazing. And I don't know if well, I'm pretty sure you probably have, but he's also, Guillermo del Toro's also got it behind the scenes on Netflix of how they
Yes,
made
yes.
Pinocchio and just the insane the models, the whole process of, I don't know if I'd have the patience of, jumping back and forth
Exactly.
to do that. But when
Yeah.
you see it and see the performance that they get out of it, it just, like you said, you can't help but walk away with an appreciation
Yeah.
for the art form and what it does.
It is just beautiful watching it. Even, when I was working with people and I was doing their makeup, even on myself, and you just have a great appreciation and love for seeing what you could do with your hands. It is just phenomenal to me. And that's kind of why I love practical effects, robotics, things like that.
Yeah.
They have this little actually, when I was at Encore, one of the artists sent me like a little, because I was interested in stop motion, and he sent me like a little toolkit that you can order on Amazon, where they have like the little guy that's like a stick figure, and it comes with like clay, and
Oh,
you could
okay.
do it yourself. And I was like, that is dope. I mean, just because I just wanted to learn, like, how do they do it? Like, and I'm kind of like that. I have my hands in many different, most artists are like this, they do different things too,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's just something about that I really love. But like I said, visual effects is something on a totally different level.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and depending on how you feel about it, because there's the whole people who are against CG type thing, and you know
Well, that brings me to a question that I wanted to ask, that knew I was going to get into. Um, do you feel like Um, and I'm only asking this because it is like well known that, like I said,
Yeah,
visual effects artists are under stress from some studios because of the, just the amount of visual effects now that are in movies. Do you feel
yeah.
that that's the reason why a lot of studios are putting pressure on our visual effects artists to get all these shots done and at a level that people are just used to seeing now?
Uh,
And like I said,
that's a
it's
good
it's not
question.
picking out any, not picking out
Yeah,
any studio or this and that. But obviously, like I said, it has been in the news, and
yeah,
hey, Marvel. I've seen a lot of
yeah.
people, and it's not any knock on them because I still watch Marvel movies. But
Oh, of course.
obviously, that puts, with the shorter timelines, with the amount of effects, with the revisions and all of that,
Yeah,
you can't you it's just, you can't help but get around that. It puts pressure on the artist to create all of
yeah,
this stuff.
yeah. It's and I want to say um I'm glad I've never really experienced that. I've experienced something sort of like that, but then working episodic is different than working on a feature film. So I'm blessed that I haven't, but I have a lot of friends that's worked, and I'm not going to say any particular studio,
Yeah,
that's worked in other studios where, if they don't deliver 3 to 4 shots a day, they're gone. And it definitely creates a very stressful environment. Um, and it definitely takes the appeal out of being a visual effects artist.
yeah,
And there's a lot of things that come with that too, not getting compensated correctly.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
this kind of harsh, cold work environment that it's just like you feel like you're a number,
yeah,
kind of. And I want to say it also depends on the studio too,
yeah,
because there are some studios that actually, you know, and honestly, when I go to job interviews, I ask, I'm like, what is your work culture like? Because if I'm going to be in a situation where I'm going to feel burnt out after 1 week, I don't want to be there. I want to be
yeah,
in an environment that I'm learning, and they're fostering more like, a team effort and a collaborative effort, as opposed to here, these are 10, 15 shots, you got to get them out. You can't learn like that.
yeah, yeah,
You can't. And a lot of times this is why they want to hire like seniors and mid levels, and they never want to take the time to actually train anyone.
yeah,
And I don't care how good you are. Like, I know, even working at Encore, every studio, sometimes they have their own nodes that they create, and everybody renders differently, and sometimes they have one thing that's easier than another studio. I know how I learned to render in school was a complete process, and when I went to Encore, they're like, oh no, you just that one button and you're good. And it's
wow,
it's you still have to, there has to be some level of training for something. I don't care if you're the best artist ever, because one thing I could say that I took away from working at Encore is I ask a lot of questions.
yeah,
And I go around to everybody and I'm like, how do you do this? Even if I know how to do it already, because there's always going to be somebody else who knows how to do the same thing in a different way.
different
And
way,
that's how you become a more efficient artist, because you
yeah,
have different techniques and ways to solve something.
yeah,
But I working at Encore, I never felt that way,
yeah,
because they
yeah,
were very big on mental health. And sometimes I remember one time I was working on 10 shots at one time. And they check in with you and they're like, and it's not necessarily the studio, sometimes it's the client.
yeah. That's what I
And
was
they'll
saying.
yeah,
Yeah, the client is at the top, and they're putting the undue
yeah,
pressure on these
yeah,
studios because they
yeah,
want up to be. Obviously, the studios are bidding to be on the project a lot of the
exactly.
times, and so they're
Yeah,
just acquiescing to a lot of what the client wants, just to
once,
say,
yeah,
okay, I'm working on this or this client's project or that client's project. It's just sad that it's a trickle down effect to where it's going to
exactly.
really affect the people that are actually creating it for sure. Let's throw some comments on here for sure. Mr. Michael remembers People Under the Stairs. That was it was one of those quiet.
I thought it was only me.
No, you're not the only one. One of those quiet ones. But it's interesting the effect that movies really can have on you, because like I said, and you knew it was a practical effect, but Jaws was a big thing for me that
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't like going into the water, or just deep
Of
water.
course. I think
Deep
for
water.
everybody.
And so
Yeah.
it's like it has, like you were saying, has such a powerful way of
Yeah.
impacting and imprinting on you. Um, you said you're really into, learning new things and, trying out new things. What is your thought on how uh, Unreal has now started to become a part of the visual effects and filmmaking process?
Ah, wow. I've never used Unreal. Um, that is a good question. I've actually never, I don't think I've actually used it, and I'm not, um,
But you see how
I
they're
know,
using it to create
yeah,
environments now and it makes it, I
yeah,
guess, easier for the actor he's in the
yeah,
environment and can kind of see the environment.
yeah. I'm gonna be honest, I have not delved too much into it. Um, so I don't want to say anything that's because I've never really delved into Unreal, to be honest. I know I've seen them use it a lot for gaming and stuff like that, but I've
Yeah.
never, in terms of, I feel like I'm in a little box a lot of times as a comper, and um we kind of, not, I don't want to say we, I want to say where I'm at
Yeah.
with my level. I think sometimes I'm very tunnel,
Television.
um yeah, and there's certain things that I just, because right now I'm like Nuke City, nuke,
Mm.
nuke
I could
this,
never
nuke,
get into
nuke that,
Nuke.
nuke, nuke, and it's just like I'm always trying to, because it's such an expansive software, and it's
Yeah.
like you it's something you really try and master, but you can never master it because it's just one of those things that they're always creating new nodes and creating new ways of doing things, and sometimes I'm kind of out of the loop because I'm just trying to focus on that
Yeah. Yeah.
and getting my way around nuke, which is also something else.
Well, from your shift from, like I said, practical style effects and getting into, what was the hardest thing to wrap your head around when you started
Oh my
working with
god.
nukes? Because I know with me, it's all, and it still is nodes. Because I'm more of a layer based type of person, but
This is, yeah, and
I'm
that's,
starting to get my head around
yeah.
nodes a little.
Well, that's the thing too, because my background is graphic design and it's the same thing, 2D layers. And I remember when I enrolled at the academy and I was lost because I was like, I want to do VFX, is what I'm telling the instructor. And they're like, okay, so what do you like? And they looked at my background and I was like, I like Photoshop, I like layers. Okay, good, you're going to be a comper. And I thought that's what it was. And comping is just not that. Now, I want to say I really love After Effects
Yeah.
because After Effects is more user friendly. It uses layers, and it was something for me to kind of, correlate with Photoshop. So it was easier. And a lot of times when people are doing illustrations and they want some kind of movement or something, they can import their stuff in After Effects, and it's very easy
Yeah.
to do, camera 360s and whatever. And that was my first go around with comping. And it took me a long time to understand just After Effects. And when you compare After Effects to Nuke,
Yeah.
it's like,
Night and day.
oh my God, it is like, I always tell people, if you're not super passionate about this stuff, don't do it. Because it is just a long journey of just being teachable and learning new techniques over and over again, and you have to be up on top of your skills, always learning, always practicing, which is what I've been doing. So for me, it was very hard to learn Nuke. Very hard. Like it took me a good year just to learn the basic fundamentals of what node connects with what,
Mm-hmm.
which, because sometimes you have a node, you have A, B, and then you have the little masking, and
Yeah.
then you have to know where does the masking go. And I was getting confused with that all the time. And then, my instructor would say, oh, it's just A over B. No, it's not. It's not just A over B. No, stop playing. It's not. And they would do it and make it seem like it's so easy, and it's not.
Oh
Because,
man.
you can connect something, and then if you screw up one thing,
Yeah.
for people who aren't familiar with Nuke, just think about a circuit board in your head. Like, that's what the script looks like. And you're just connecting it to a million things. And you have to know how everything correlates. And if you connect one thing and it's wrong, you screw up the entire script. And it could be a minor thing, but you
Yeah.
just have to know in your head, like, what does this node do? And then what you have to do is go step by step, go back to this node. What is that? Click on it, see what that's doing. And it took me a very long time to learn that.
Yeah.
Um, but that was kind of for me to transfer from practical, I want to say graphic design practical, then this, it was very difficult. And I'm getting better now after working professionally,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think that's where you learn the most of your stuff too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you could sit down and work all day on your own projects, but when you have a deadline and you have to work with people and you have different kind of projects, like working at Encore was the first time I I used Mocha to Roto. And Mocha is a
Mm,
different software that you could
yeah.
use with Nuke. And because it was more efficient. And
Yeah.
I used it in school, but it's not the same when
Nah.
you're using it to
Totally
roto
different when you
something.
get it. Yeah. Totally different when you get it
Yeah,
into an actual pipeline of
yeah,
production.
it's very like and I couldn't understand, I couldn't wrap my head around it, but once I started doing it, more, I was like, oh, this is not so, it's easy. Like, I don't want to say easy, but it's more
Yeah.
time consuming than it is difficult. And you
Yeah.
have to be patient, and a lot of VFX work is very time consuming. And to the viewer, people aren't really going to know the time that goes into it, but when you're
Yeah.
watching something, I mean, I've hadn't had shots sent back to me because a strand of hair was off.
Oh,
A
yeah.
strand, I'm not even talking about this, I'm talking about a strand. And I didn't know what, like, continuity was, and I didn't know what matching was until I worked at a professional studio. And if I have 5 shots, I have to make sure the hair looks the same in
Yeah.
every single
Yeah.
shot. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, they're seeing it, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't see no hair off. And now, like, I can actually see it. Like, you
Yeah.
develop that eye. So
Yeah.
it definitely, I'm more of like I don't want to say perfectionist because there's tons of VFX that's not great. But
Yeah.
you as the artist, when I say perfectionist, it has to be perfect before it gets approved.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if it's not perfect to the client, and that goes back to what you were saying about, like, artists being stressed, it's such a high, it could be a high stressed kind of work
Yeah.
because it's like double downtime, like you have to get this right. And I just feel like studios, or I feel like I want to say like studios should do a better job at like work distribution too,
Yeah.
and hiring people of all different levels, not just
Yeah.
seniors, and
Yeah.
having like a system set up where you can have someone who has less experience work with somebody that has more experience,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it's not so much everything on this one person because they have 20 years experience.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like studios should kind of maybe have more mentorship programs
Yeah.
in that way. You know, most of them don't.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to the whole time thing. We don't have time to do this, and we don't, and if you want a successful studio, I feel like they need to invest in something like that,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
everybody can, not just people who have a million years experience, because what's going to happen with the people who have 10 plus years experience don't want to do it anymore because they're burned out. A lot of them are going to teaching now.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. And like I said, with just the way, audiences are and what they expect the
mhm.
quality to be it just kind of, like I said,
Yeah,
it trickles
yeah,
down to the artist, which is sad because, like I said, there are a lot of just amazingly talented people that, like you said, get kind of burned out with the whole process of
yeah.
being burned, just shots dumped on them for sure. We're gonna go through some comments here. Mr. EX140 Antoine. Hey Don. Hey Amanda. Appreciate you. Doctor. Yeah, this was a favorite of mine too. Walking Dead. I love The Walking Dead. That was a great one, for sure.
Can
Let's
VFX for the win.
for sure. Uh, Antoine always cracks me up here. Let me get your comment in here, Antoine. People are stupid. There are a lot of successful artists in the world for sure. They definitely should be cultivating. Like I said, the
Yeah,
studios should have things, and that's the tough thing because, like I said, you got a lot of people, a lot of students wanting to get into the industry, but like you said, they want them to have
yeah,
this much experience or that type of experience, and you don't really get the practical experience until you get
yeah,
into a studio and working in a pipeline, and with deadlines, as you would in school. I guess they
yeah.
give you kind of a basic one on projects, but you don't feel the pressure like
You
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 do.
have someone holding your hand in
it's
school the entire way.
it's
No,
different when
you
they
have
have
help.
millions of dollars on the line for
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Those schools are getting their money either way,
Oh man.
so
Chanel, Halloween was her one, which I loved Halloween. That was another one.
wait,
Uh
which one? The original?
yes, I love the original. The original Halloween was, and two was pretty good too. I kind of like one and two. That's where mine kind of stopped at.
Yeah,
One and
because
two.
three is like,
Yeah, one and two
and
were,
forget what they're doing
yeah.
now, because
Yeah. See,
I don't
that's
know
why I
what they're
said,
doing now.
it's such a, which I kind of hate about, Hollywood, in the sense they tend to kind of rehash movies and just take things way longer than what
This
they
is
should
why I
be.
said the 80s is the best. It
So
just, I'm not gonna lie. The 90s had some good movies, and these last 10 years, The Conjuring was good. I think
I didn't
The
see that
Conjuring
one.
is. You said you didn't see it?
No, I didn't see that one. Conjuring. Yeah. Yeah.
You off my cool list now.
Yeah.
You off my. You gotta watch. You gotta
I'll have to
watch.
watch it. It is on. I think it is on Netflix. I have to watch it for sure. Mr. DeMille, Michael Jackson's Thriller was the first thing scary. Really?
Thriller was good. They had some good
Thriller
makeup
was
work in
good,
there.
but as far as
Yeah.
scary, I didn't think it was necessarily a
As a
scary.
kid, I could
Well,
understand
yeah,
that.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. Uh, let's see. T2 CG was amazing. Still today. Yeah. Yeah.
It's in every
Terminator.
film course.
Yeah. Obviously, Antoine in his classic Alien and the original
Of course.
Exorcist. Yeah, the original Exorcist that scared the bejeebus out of me too. Are some of the most scariest movies. I tell you what, anybody that has Netflix, check out, because I think it just started on Netflix, but I had seen it maybe like last year. Lights Out. That's a pretty
That's not
scary.
bad.
That's a pretty scary
Yeah,
movie.
it's not bad. I'm not gonna lie. It's not
Yeah,
bad.
that one kind of scared the crap out of me for sure. Mr. DeMille, Planet of the Apes is one of my favorites films.
Mocap work
Well,
is excellent.
yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. Solomon loved Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Yeah, and I'm glad there's studios that are still really pushing stop motion.
Stop
You
motion,
know,
yeah.
because it is a really,
It's
really
yeah.
great art form that you don't see a lot of.
No, you don't. It's almost like I don't want to say fading art, but
Well, I
it's just
mean,
not.
Guillermo said it
Yeah,
himself in the documentary. It is kind of a
yeah.
fading thing, which is why he
I
did decide
did it.
to,
Yeah,
do. And I loved his take on Pinocchio and kept it more darker than Disney's, of course,
yeah.
take on it. Everybody's familiar with Disney, but
Well,
it was funny because I think I was reading where the actual book is a pretty dark, dark tale.
yeah. I've
So,
heard. Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite studio is KNBFX. If you heard of KNB,
Yeah.
Greg Nicotero and his crew, and I love them because they still do a lot of practical work.
Yeah.
And when it KNB, for people who don't know, Walking Dead, just think
Walking
Walking
Dead.
Dead.
Yeah.
And if anyone is a super huge horror fan, subscribe to Shudder because Canby has a whole creep show series on it. And what I love about them is they still do a lot of practical work, and they do visual effects now, and they do such an amazing job of integrating it.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, Walking Dead within of itself, I think, is a show on kind of a different level because they use so much practical work, but they
Yeah.
use a lot of VFX in there too,
Yeah.
and it's just seamless to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. They
so
did an amazing job with The Walking Dead. Kind of, I think I kind of stopped at season 10 or 9.
yeah,
Started after Rick, left. That was kind of.
don't say nothing. I didn't finish.
Like I said, I still need to go back and watch the last few
They're
years of
doing
it.
a spin-off if you
Yeah,
of
that's
Rick
what I
and like
hear.
Michonne, have you heard?
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, that's what I heard. They're supposed to be
Don't sound
bringing.
like you're looking forward to it.
I'd like to see
You're
what
not
they do
looking
with
forward
it.
to it.
Well, no, I really would like to see what they do with it because like I said, I really did love Michonne and bringing her in,
Yeah, she's
and
amazing though.
and I thought, yeah, which, like I said, that tells you how good the effects were. Because when I saw her without her makeup, I was like, wow, okay. It's a beautiful woman here, boy.
Yeah.
They just covered it up with makeup. Oh man. But no, Walking Dead was an amazing one for sure. Let me see. Miss I don't know whether this is Mr. or Mrs., but Aya York.
South Africa, that's cool.
Yeah, well, Johannesburg, South Africa. Good show. Appreciate you tuning in for sure. Yeah, I have to throw this up because we were just talking about.
Didn't I say he was gonna be in it? I told
we were
you.
just talking about this,
That's
the
my
meal
friend.
that you
I
were going
told
to
you. I
say.
said Jamil was
Amen.
gonna be right there. Say amen. I knew it.
Oh man, After Effects is a really cool. It is. I think. Well, like I said, obviously. Oh man, his name just flew out of my head, but he did a lot of effects or After Effects tutorial. Andrew Kramer, and all the stuff he's done with Star Trek and everything. After Effects, he does. Obviously, is an amazing thing. But obviously, the difference, Nodes gives you, from what I hear, a lot more flexibility than you would with layer based. I mean, and you can go a little
Yeah,
deeper with nodes
yeah, because
style.
you're creating it from scratch, so it's easier for you to make edits, and it just makes the work look so much seamless because you could edit like within nodes, you could pre-comp stuff, you can make a comp in itself, then pre-comp it, put it on something else. Is you just have more flexibility, and with After Effects they do a lot of behind the scenes work,
Mm,
even in like green screen keying.
yeah,
After Effects does a lot of stuff for you. In Nuke, you literally have to do it from scratch. But it just gives you more to work with, and you could become more detailed in what you're doing. So that I think that's why it's an industry standard
yeah,
software.
yeah, yeah,
If you want things to look like Marvel quality, you kind of have to. And not saying because you could. I know Marvel uses After Effects too for certain things.
yeah, yeah,
But I find that for me, After Effects is really phenomenal for motion graphics,
yeah,
and you know, Nuke is definitely the VFX program, the
yeah,
comp program, I should say. And you
yeah,
could do it in After Effects too. It's just the qualities. It's a little different.
yeah,
It's like I think Nuke is a higher quality, um, and like you said, it's just more flexibility. You could do so much more. You can delve into the nodes and figure out different things and be so meticulous with detail that you can't do it in After Effects.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, for sure. Um, what was the hardest shot that you had to work on? That was just a hard shot to get for you. to this point?
Oh man, I have a lot of those. I have a lot of those. I could think of three right now. Oh my gosh. So I worked on an independent project called Rat King in school, and you're gonna see it on my reel. It's the first shot. We were working on that shot for like a year.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, it was so extensive because it was my first time. It was so much. So this is the thing, like when you're shooting something on green screen, it needs to have you should you know this, the great,
Yeah.
it has to have good lighting,
Yeah.
no shadows.
Yeah.
You're better off doing it in a green room if you could afford it. Um but this one was shot, and it's not a big deal, but it just makes the work harder. It was
Harder.
shot on
Yeah.
a green cloth, which, and I'm not gonna lie, because I have one too. You
And it
start
works.
off
Like I
little.
said,
You
if the
gotta
lighting is good and it's, like I said, they can work. You know.
it was shot on one of the green cloths, and the shadowing was not great, and it was a mechanical spider that they were, which is what I loved about it, because I'm like, I haven't seen something like this in a while. Like they made the spider and they had the little propellers for it and walking it, and you see the director in the bottom doing this, and it was so cool. But the amount of rotoscoping work I
Oh
had to
yeah.
do on that,
Yeah.
and because I was so fresh with it, like it took me months. And this is a period of, I wasn't so Academy of Art has like an apprenticeship program called Studio X, where recent grads are, I want to say, maybe if you're in your last year and you want some experience to get into the film or VFX animation
Yeah.
industry, you can work in Studio X and work with the director of the program, and work with you know directors and actual filmmakers that come to the school and talk, and you know so that was like my first time working on like a real film, so you get the actual experience of working on a VFX pipeline with the filmmakers, with your teachers and your students. So but when school is out, we're not working in Studio X. So I was doing it semesters. So I started in spring semester, then I did summer, and then I think I skipped a semester, but it was like a whole year, because you know how productions are.
Yeah.
They'll start something, sometimes funds fall through, whatever. And for me, it was so difficult because I was learning how to roto for the first time, like the real way,
Yeah.
where
That's tedious
you're,
work.
oh my God,
Even when
like
it's done correctly, it's tedious work.
it took me months just to get it the right way. And it was my first time working with like gizmos, and working with lightning, and tracking the lightning to the tentacle that's coming off of his head.
Yeah.
And it was my script was like, I I should have sent you a picture of the script. I really should have. It was so long and just laborious for me. And I got kind of annoyed after a while, because I was just like, with anything, if you're doing something too long
Yeah.
and you're every day you're looking at it, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I'm still working on this. But like I said, it has to be perfect. And one thing about our director, Catherine, like she is a stickler. Like
Mm,
this has to be done right. She's been in the industry 30
yeah.
years and she's
Yeah.
amazing. This has to be done right. It's not going to get approved. So we have to go back. But one thing about Studio X is you have help.
Yeah.
So, I had very good comp leads that helped me. But that was school. Now, in terms of professionally, my biggest thing professionally was matching shots. I didn't have, I feel like I'm delay. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think like there's like a little
Yeah. Well,
a
there's
little
going to be a
delay on
little.
my end.
Yeah, there is going to be on your end, so don't worry about that. But because you're
Oh, okay.
watching the replay, so you'll see it, which I should have told you before the show.
Okay.
So
For me, this was a Disney project I was working on at Encore, and I had about 5 similar shots.
mm,
And, you know, that was the first time I did that too. And I just remember that I had to match, I want to say I had to match. So I was working with a matte painter, and compers are the last artists in the pipeline. So I was working with a matte painter, and he did the matte painting. So my job is integrating the matte painting into
The shot.
the file. So I did that, but I had to color correct it, and I had to match it to 5 other shots, and
Always
then I
fun.
had to make sure I had to key the hair of the actress that was in front of the matte painting, and I had to match it to 4 other shots. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never done this before.
Oh man. Oh
And
man. Oh
that for
man.
me was it was only hard because I've never done it
Done it
before.
before. Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't realize just how keen of like eye detail you have to have for this kind of stuff. So that I want to say that, and also I worked on it's not released yet, but I worked on a TV show, and the shot was kind of like a glow was coming off a girl's back. And if you know,
Oh, we lost her. Oh, well, hopefully she'll log back in. Let me jump to this. Yep, she did. Ah, you're back now.
I lost connection.
Yes. Uh, but we got you back. You're good.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there is a slight echo though on your end, so I'm not sure where that. Let
Um,
me.
should my mic be off or
I'm not sure why there's an echo coming in.
I can't hear it though,
You
the
can't
echo.
hear it.
No.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have to roll with it. I'm not sure why there's an echo on your end there. But go
That
ahead.
is weird. I don't
Yeah,
hear it though.
you don't hear it.
Um,
I hear it, so I'm
no.
pretty sure. Let me know in the comments if you're getting an echo, kind of on Amanda's end. I'm hearing it in my headset, so I don't know if it's on my end. But let me know in the comments if you are, and we'll just have to roll with it there for sure. Uh, the audience doesn't hear it.
There's
Okay,
definitely a lot of freezing on my end.
yeah, no echo here, so we're good. They're not hearing an echo. I'm just
Okay,
hearing
we're
it in
good?
my headset for some reason. I'm not sure why. So we'll just go. They can't hear it, so you're good. Nothing
Okay.
here. Aisha, no echo. Miss Black Woman Animator, Deborah, appreciate you tuning in. No echo.
Hi, Deborah.
Hey, and see, Antoine, I'm gonna have to block you, man, because you're just never gonna let
Yeah, I remember
Antoine.
Antoine was saying it happened when he was on too.
Yes, we had some major technical difficulties with Antoine, which is why we're gonna have him back on. But that's like I tell people, it's the nature of live shows. You got to go with how things roll and just kind of work with them. But they're not hearing an echo on your end for sure. Although on my end, which is why I'm kind of hesitant on jumping around on scenes, there has been a delay on my end. So I'm
Okay.
it, just on the graphics and things like that. So, uh, and we are going to take a look at some of one Amanda's demo reel, and then two some of her the shows that she's worked on for sure. Again, for those just jumping in, we're having a fun, amazing conversation with VFX compositor Amanda Price. Um, to what you just said, do you feel like she froze up again there? Uh, you, can you hear me, Amanda? I don't know why you're
There's a
freezing.
lot of frozen.
Yeah,
Yeah, mine is freezing a lot.
yeah, I do not know. So don't say anything, Antoine. I don't want to hear it. So I know you're gonna say. I know you're saying something. See, there he goes. Uh, but do you feel like really, realistically, schools are preparing you as you're moving into, because like I said, it's a totally different thing once you get into a pipeline. I mean, I know they can only
Yeah.
do so much, but percentage wise, how would you say schools are kind of really preparing what an actual studio, I don't know if they can do so much with the pressure of working on
Yeah.
shots as much, but just, you know, the difference between working at a studio and then just coming out of school, learning what you're learning.
Oh man, I had the worst imposter syndrome um, when I was in school, and I was in that last semester, and I was getting ready to look for work. To your question, can you hear me? Because I'm delayed a little.
Yeah, I can hear you. So you're
Okay.
like I said, you're probably going to see a delay just because you're watching it on the internet. So you're going to see kind of that delay, but you're good.
Okay, so I have a couple of points that I want to make about that because I know, like in the art industry, school is kind of underappreciated.
Mm,
And a lot of people say like your reel is, and I get it, and I agree. Your reel is definitely the most important thing. Um, I've even had, I've even seen on like ads that, some places don't even care about the degree. It's pretty much like your experience, which I feel like is a big slap in the face. But for me and my personal experience, if it wasn't if it wasn't for the academy, I wouldn't have a career in VFX, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Because my journey has been a little bit different. Um, I don't know anyone in the film industry. Um, I don't have any connects. When I came to California, I didn't know anybody. I didn't even know how to get started. So going to the academy was such a big force in my life to make the right decision of what industry I wanted to be in because I never had a network before school.
Yeah.
I think the school I went to, in terms of the curriculum, I think the curriculum could have been better. I mean, they shifted directors, and I wasn't fond of the director that was in office when I started, but when they changed to Catherine, she was very very interested and cared about the direction that the students were going to, and she would make it her job to actually have meetings with students and encourage them and talk to them and see where their level was.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into Studio X. In terms of the curriculum, I think the school did a decent job of teaching you the fundamentals, of teaching you the tools, how the interface works. I don't think the curriculum did the best jobs in terms of um, pipeline or what to expect in the industry.
Yeah.
I don't think that's something that's covered enough. I don't think it's something that's, um, I want to say, enforced, or I don't know what's the right word, reiterated, or I don't know how else to put it, but I don't
Yeah.
think enough information is given to students about the structure of this industry. I want to say that working in Studio X at the school was a game changer for me. That was a game changer. And I think the Academy does a really good job of trying to get students into the industry with that program. And not only with that program, but with having Career Week, which is when industry professionals come in. The school has, your work up on their website. And I actually gotten a few interviews, through that. And, Factory VFX, which was one of the companies that I interviewed with, actually invited me to like train me at the time. A little bit later, I'd gotten the job at Encore, and I didn't go through with it. But I feel that more schools should have. I think they should be more transparent with people in
Yeah.
terms of what to expect in the industry, because I felt like for me, like they hold your hand. They hold your hand through school, and you always have someone to help you. Somebody is always there. And I think working in Studio X as opposed to working in an actual class setting, and I want to kind of separate the two because Studio X is not the same as working in a class. Studio X was actually a literal studio
Studio. Yeah.
where we worked with filmmakers. That's totally different.
Yeah.
And anyone who's in VFX and animation in that school should take Studio X because it propels you to where you need to be. And it actually gives you an idea of what the pipeline is, and you're working with real filmmakers. With that being said, I felt like the school was great in that aspect, but I feel like I wish they kind of maybe prepped me better. Or
Yeah.
I don't know what everybody else is, but just my experience. I wished I would have gotten more of a better understanding of what like the industry is, because coming from school, going straight into the professional world is a big eye opener.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I don't think most schools are doing that. Though I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, and we kind of touched a little about this, before the show. Now that you're starting to see, like I said, a lot of online schools cropping up, and usually, from what I've seen, most of those are still working, professionals working at a studio, but they're also teaching, and I think kind of giving a more, like you were saying, a more realistic view of what studio life
Yeah,
is
is yeah.
um, without so much of the cost or debt of going
Yeah.
into a regular 4 year 4 year school or this or that. What are your kind of thoughts on, like I said, that now, that is really starting to become a lot, because it not only is more affordable but more accessible to people that, like I said, aren't living here in the States. They can take the training online and that type of thing. What is your thought on just the level of schools that are now online schools and training that are now starting to crop up?
Well, I mean, the school has campuses, but I never was living in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
When I started, I was living in New York, and my program was online. Then I moved to LA, and I was still doing it because I was like, I'm not moving to San Francisco. I'm not a fan, just not. And
Sorry,
nothing
Demille.
against you, Demille,
Sorry,
but
sorry, Demille.
because I know he's gonna get in these comments and start talking trash.
Just to preface with that right
I'm,
now, Demille.
I'm
Sorry
just
about
not a
that.
fan. I've been to the campuses; they're lovely. I'm not a fan. So I did my entire 3 year master's program online, and even though I want to say it depends, one, on the individual and their learning style, and two, also I appreciate it for what it is, but learning something like visual effects, for me,
Yeah.
learning that online was very difficult.
Yeah.
It was very difficult because there are some things like even with the curriculum, there are videos that you watch that show you how to do stuff. But personally, I'm the kind of person that I want someone sitting next to me explaining every single thing, because sometimes you watch these tutorials and they skip a step,
Yeah. Yeah. They
and you
do.
have to kind of try to go back and like, what did I miss? I listened to this entire thing and I'm still lost, and then now I'm going on YouTube channels trying to find what I lost. And I feel like if you sometimes the tutorials are old too and they're
Yeah.
not updated, and I feel like I think schools try, and I think some programs are better than others, but I also feel like it depends on the person's learning style. And if I had a choice at the time, I would prefer to go in, because when I visited the school and
Yeah.
I spoke to the instructors, it was great. And I actually saw the studio, and I went into the sound room, I went into the green room, and I felt great. Like somebody was there all the time to help you, to explain stuff. You can't really replace that kind of in-person
Yeah.
interaction. um Working online is, I want to say, because when I did my bachelor's, I did that on site,
Yeah.
and online is a lot more difficult. You have to be more focused, you have to be
Yeah.
more driven, more determined, you have to be more disciplined. because sometimes I remember I used to stay up 2 days straight, no sleep, just and
Yeah.
anybody who works in a computer knows that it's not good for you.
Yeah.
Mentally, it's not.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. Like, I appreciate like the influx of, you know, giving people in different places the opportunity to learn visually, because everything is changing. But at the same time, I think there's with certain types of fields, um, certain certain types of fields, I feel like it's something that would be better
Yeah.
if you do in person, for me at least.
Yeah.
But I'm not taking away from what that
Yeah.
has, especially now with COVID and a lot of people working remote,
Yeah.
you know, with technology, I think it's amazing, but there's certain things that I feel like you still need to, you
Yeah.
know, be on site with a person to get like that full understanding and grasp. At least for me, I can't
Yeah.
speak for everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. We're gonna throw some comments up here. Uh, Mr. DeMille, the crunch time, from what I hear, is no joke. Yeah, I mean, especially when it's getting down to release date and
Yeah.
they need to get it out. I'm pretty sure, for sure. Also, yeah, hire more juniors definitely is a big thing. Really give people the education and the training. That definitely makes it better for the studio as a whole. Uh, when Michael Jackson looked back at the camera at the end.
Oh my gosh, he's still talking about that? You still on that? My goodness. Demir, we could have our whole
Oh man.
conversation about that.
Oh man, too funny. And of course, what was that comment from Antoine? I always look for Antoine stuff on here because he's crazy, for sure. Yeah, here it is. I hated The Walking Dead.
What?
He hated The Walking Dead. Good God. Okay.
Why? Like, you have no reason to hate that.
Oh
Like, there's
man.
no reason.
Oh man. But he and to Antoine's, Nuke is a beast. Nuke is the industry standard for VFX. But do you think, like, because Nuke ain't cheap? Nuke's not cheap. So
$10,000.
yeah, Nuke's not a cheap app that people. I don't know if they have like a indie version or something like that to kind of
They
get the
they do,
person.
but the thing with the indie version, a lot of times they don't come with certain
Yeah,
um yeah, like, I know there's
features.
different types of ways to track, and there's certain ways you can't do in some of the versions. Nuke X is really the one that has everything, and that one is $10,000.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's not a cheap entry form for.
no, I mean,
So
you could get like a month free, and I mean, if you do the ghetto stuff and do like 10 different emails, you could. I mean, you do what you got to do to get to the top. I'm just saying, you do what you got to do. It is what it is.
oh man,
I don't have
so
10G.
for you though, what coming into the industry, what was the kind of biggest surprise for you, or the biggest thing that just kind of surprised you when you actually got into a studio production pipeline? What was the big surprise, or was there any?
How Yeah, a lot. How much teamwork goes into it? No, you're not. You're never working alone. You're never working alone. You always have to be aware of what the other artist did before you, because
Mm,
most likely you're going to be getting their work. Um, the collab. Sorry, my accent. The collaboration effort is so important. The communication is so important. Like, when you watch a movie or a TV show, the amount of people who are working on that one show or that one movie is massive. And I just never knew like how much coordination goes on with all of it. Um, I didn't know like how detailed the work has to be.
yeah,
Um, Also, for me, actually, I know this is gonna sound like a fangirl thing, but for when I saw Queen Latifah and Ludacris on my screen, I was like, there's no way I'm working on this right now. That's Queen Latifah. Like it was like a very I can't even explain that moment. It was so many feelings that came over me like, wow, like I'm really doing this.
Yeah.
Like it's so gratifying to see like your work. For me, that was one of the biggest things to like see my work on screen. And even though it's so it could be stressful and it could be just infuriating at times, it is so gratifying to see what you worked on film with
Yeah.
other people, other artists that you've learned from. And also, I think going from films to episodic is very different. And episodic is very quick, very quick. I mean, I remember one week I was working on 14 shots.
Wow.
Yeah, and sometimes some of the shots are due in 3 days.
Wow.
Because it's every week they're going on TV.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, oh my God, like I was in school, I had months to work on something.
Not
And then,
anymore.
I'm like, now I'm working stuff and not for nothing, but you pick it up real fast. Like if you're on it all day and that's all you're doing, you pick
Yeah.
it up real fast. And I want to say there's something gratifying about doing something that you love, no matter how challenging it is, just being immersed in it and just doing it all day and getting better at your craft. There's something gratifying about that
Yeah.
you can't get working, I don't want to say regular job,
Yeah.
but a regular job. Like there's something about working in the craft that you selected, that you worked so hard on. It's something that really touches my soul.
Yeah.
So for me, Nuke is very challenging, but it's one of those things like that I want to conquer. So I'm not scared of it anymore. And when I think about where I was like 2 years ago in the program and now what I'm doing now,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like it when you see like the level of your work getting better and more professional and more seamless, you're like, I'm actually doing this. Like
Yeah.
it's that feeling of working in a studio with and I mean, I was in Encore, I was working with some talented people. Like it people who've been working at, doing this for 10, 15 years and for people to be so open to be willing to show me stuff and show me their techniques, it is just a remarkable feeling if I can say that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, I,
you know,
I I get what you're saying, and I think that's every artist's kind of dream is to see, like I said, to see the completion of what they put so much work
yeah,
into, and then to it being a success and people really loving what they do for sure. Let me throw some comments up here. Of course, we got to throw this up here, Demille. I know we know you love San Francisco. You just been around San Francisco, so you got to throw that up for sure.
he
Oh,
had to
yeah.
put that up there.
Miss Deborah, for Black Woman Animator, I remember doing a digital tutors After Effects
Thank
tutorial, and
you.
it took me days to find the step. Yeah,
I'm
uh,
telling you,
I've done a
those
number of
forums are real though.
yeah, I've done a number of tutorials where they're like my stuff doesn't look like that, and I'm following.
And I'm following it minute
Yeah,
to
I'm
minute,
following
frame
it,
by frame.
rewinding back, I'm like, okay. Oh man, Mr. Antoine, Amanda's throwing so much hate on San Francisco. Whoa.
It's not. I'm a New Yorker. What can I say? Like nothing beats New York, and I hope nobody don't come up in these comments talking about some other city that's better than New York because there isn't one. I'm just saying.
But I will put his other comment up here because he brought it back around. He brought it back around. The man is so damn beautiful.
Thank you,
So you
Antoine.
redeemed yourself, Antoine.
I take it back. San Francisco is alright in my book.
Oh man, facts with my online experience as well. Not for all classes, but a few in person would have benefit. Yeah, I think it's
Exactly.
always better, and I guess, like I said, it does come down to how some people can learn better through online tutorials and online schooling. So you have to figure out what works best for you, for
Absolutely.
sure. Elizabeth Baker,
Hey,
appreciate that.
girl.
Appreciate ya tuning in for sure. uh, I'm
That's my
almost
producing buddy.
I am almost scared to do this, but we're going to do it anyway and switch to a different scene to show some of Amanda's stuff that she's worked on. Let's see if this rocks and rolls with us here. Yeah, my transitions are coming in a little late, so but it didn't switch scenes. So these are some of the films and projects that Amanda has worked on. Worked on some pretty interesting stuff. All American, uh, live action, and we're gonna take a look at Amanda's demo reel and see some of the effects stuff that she's done for sure. American Murderer. That was the first one. That
That
was the
was my
first one.
first feature film. Yeah.
Yeah, first feature. I tell you, it's so amazing. Doom Patrol. Now this looks
Doom
fun.
Patrol is so dope. If anybody
Yeah,
watches that show, it is so cool.
yeah. So I mean, do you obviously when you get the shot or something, you already know what you need to do. But do you have a process of how you get started with putting the shot together, um, and kind of getting what you need done? Is there a process that you kind of go through, or what is your steps like?
So it depends on the shot you're getting. That's the thing. Um, it depends on the shot and what they want you to do. Because my approach for something that needs, 3D tracking is definitely going to be different than something that needs to be keyed out. Um, every shot is so different, and there's not like a definitive way. Um, the first thing I probably do is look at the scopes, like what color space they want, match what does a plate look like. I have to match the plate. A lot of times you have to like degrain the footage depending on what the outcome has to be. It really depends, to
Yeah,
be honest, because there's no like right way to set something up, because every shot is so different. Like if you're going to not use any effects, you don't need to degrain, or it just depends what you're doing. If you're doing something simple like a painting or a retime or something, you don't need. There's a lot of things you don't have to do. It's just fix this, send it. So it really depends on what they want. If it's something more technical, like you have to track this plate and put in this different background, then it's a whole different approach to
yeah,
how I would do that, as opposed to if they just wanted me to paint something out.
yeah, yeah.
It just really depends on what they want.
So, as a shot, you're doing everything from comping whatever effects or whatever things need to be comped together, and you're also color grading it as well. The shot, or are you just
So,
doing it, or does it depend shot by shot whether you're color grading that shot that you put together or not?
so compositing is basically all CG assets, all 2D assets combined together for that final seamless image or visual, better yet. And it just depends. Sometimes you don't need color grading. It depends on what they want. Um, so I've worked on shots that all they needed to do is just retime something so it can match the original number of frames that they sent. With that, that's all you're doing. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah,
And then there's shots where they're like, we want a different color space. Then you have to, like, maybe this is a better example. So when I was working at Encore, I was working on that Disney show. I had gotten work from the matte painter, so I had to take his painting, put it into my um, my workspace, and incorporate it. And I had to match the color scheme that they gave me. So my job as the final artist is I'm putting everything together so it's seamless. So basically, once I put that in there, match the color which they wanted me to do. If there's anything on my part that I have to do that's separate from putting in his background, whatever I have to key out or anything like that, Then I put that together. Then I check everything. I check the grain, I check the black levels, I check my reference in comparison to the plate to make sure that's correct. Whatever notes they have on it, I have to check. And then it's shipped off, and then QC checks it. And if it's not right, then they ship it back. And the thing about being a compositor that is kind of, it's not bad, but since you're the last artist on the pipeline, if somebody gives you, like, say, a CG, I don't do a lot of CG stuff, but say, for instance, just an example, if you're working with a CG artist and you had to bring something in that dated, like an animation or something, and it's not done right, they're kicking it back to me. They're not kicking it
Wow.
back to you. Then I have to go to you and say, they're kicking this back. You have to fix it.
Yeah.
Even though that wasn't my part of it, but because I'm the last person and I'm
Wow.
putting everything together, it's just like a step thing.
Yeah.
But that's where it goes back to, it's a team, and communication it's a big deal. And if you're gonna be in this industry, you're never doing anything by yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get plates or shots that are passed down from people. Like, I remember I'd gotten a shot where I had to fix the tracking. Somebody already worked on this entire script, and they gave it to me, and they're like, you have to fix this. Now I have to go into their script, look at what they
Wow.
did, and then fix it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I tried to track this a million times. And then they found out after I did all this work, oh, so the problem was, it was a scene where they're like in a spaceship and you're seeing the stars like move, but it has to be seamless, right? And you know, there was some jitter, I think, outside of the window. I didn't see the jitter, but after working with the other artists, was, yeah, it's moving a little bit. Me if you're a viewer, you're not seeing the jitter,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we see it. So I did all this tracking. I must have submitted this like 20 times, and I
Wow.
got it perfect with no movement, right? Then it's kicked back. They're like, well, now we want movement. After I did all I'm like, after I did all this work, now you
See,
want movement?
that's why
So
people
it's,
come into offices with shotguns.
don't
Crazy.
say that out loud.
Crazy. Crazy. That's a lot. So I hope you future VFX compositors are getting just, it is a lot of work, and it is something that you really need to be passionate about if you're going to put in the time, because that's the thing about clients. They come back with revisions or
Yeah,
things, and I tell people when I do video work for clients, it's like, revisions, you need to be sure. Let's be sure about what you're trying to do, because revisions with video work and animation work isn't like a flyer or something like that where you could change a font or
exactly.
that type of thing.
Yeah.
Too crazy. This was one of the ones that were, another feature there. Fear.
That was my second. That was actually out in January. I was telling
Yeah.
everybody to go see if they saw it. I know DeMille saw it.
Yeah, the
Sent me a
mail
nice
was
little video. I
scared out
appreciate
of
that,
his
DeMille.
bejeebus for it. MYBS. Mysterious
Mysterious
Benedict
Benedict.
Society.
I had a lot of.
Nice.
This was the show that I had like 5 shots and I had to match everything.
Jeez. And color matching shot matching is not a
Shot
easy.
is hard.
It's
It's not
hard.
easy.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do. I'm trying to kind of grasp my head around it. I use DaVinci Resolve. Um,
Oh, I've never actually used that.
trying to get into color grading and that type of thing. It's not an easy thing. It's funny. You really figure out what it is you really enjoy doing or have the patience to do day in and
Yeah,
day
it's
out when
true.
you sit down and learn it for
It's
sure.
true.
Oh man. And the SEAL team.
SEAL Team, man, I
Yeah.
had so many interesting shots with SEAL Team.
Uh,
Ugh,
CBS.
that's where I learned how to
Nice.
3D track. 3D track is
Nice.
it's
Nice.
an animal.
Yeah, we've talked about obviously, a lot of the stuff that goes on with compositing and this and that. Um, just personality wise and kind of the traits that a compositor really needs to have, what would you say are like the top two really big traits that if you're looking into compositing, these are a couple of traits you really need to have or work on and really make a part of you?
You have to remain teachable at all times and don't take anything personal. It's not about you. It's about the final result of where you need to be. So for me, I am always open-minded when it comes to work. You're always working as a compositor because you want to get your skill set up to a level where you'll always have questions, but you don't need to rely on people. So you want to get your skill set up to a level where you're comfortable enough to at least figure something out yourself. You always have to, and if somebody is showing you something, or if someone comes back to you with some, because for me, when I learned this, I'm very protective over my
Mm,
shots.
yeah,
Like I remember working, and they're like, Amanda, we have to take the shot away from you. It's due this week, and they just, it's not you. We just need this. And I kind of, it was hurtful because I'm like, I wanna finish this shot because you invest so much time,
yeah,
but you have to learn that it's not really you. It's what the client wants, and you're working for someone.
yeah,
So for me, I always remain teachable. I'm always asking questions. I'm always willing to learn more because the technology shifts so much all the time, and you have to be extremely patient because if you're not, I mean, I remember days of, like, my first few weeks, I was so, not depressed, but I was stressed
stress,
because it's it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and not because it was bad. It's because I didn't know there was so much work that you have to put into it,
yeah,
um, and learn. And I was getting irritated when things were getting thrown back to me. And I'm like, do they just not like me? Or am I doing something wrong? Or it's not you, it's just the quality, especially if it's a certain type of studio. It's just the quality of work
yeah,
that they want to get out. So I don't take anything personal, always remain teachable, always ask questions. Never be afraid to ask questions because that's the only way you'll learn. Always work on your own personal projects. And even if you're not doing that, just watch some tutorials. And I'm saying that for myself too,
yeah,
because it's the only way you're really going to get better. And I follow so many VFX channels and see what people are doing and what's going on, and or what technique did this person use to get this. But I've learned so much from the people. That's why I still keep like connections. With the people that I've worked with, I've used LinkedIn and connected with so many compers. Shonda Hunt, gotta shout you out. She's amazing. She's
Shonda Hunt,
took her time out to Shonda Genevieve, who works for Rodeo FX. She's amazing. She's like my little mentor too,
yeah,
and she's taught me a lot of stuff. Always connect with people that have been doing it longer than you. And I remember one thing Genevieve told me, and she was like, when your first couple of years is going to be really hard because you're new, you're getting your foot in the door, and when you don't have a lot of years of experience, it's going to be hard for you to, you're proving yourself.
yeah,
That's what you're doing.
yeah,
So, and she was telling me, like, just stick through it, you know, where you are now. If you just look back at where you are a year ago to where you're now, how much you've accomplished. And I want to say comp VFX animation, because it's very similar. What you do today and what you do next, I know at least for a comp, what I did last week and when I just started working at Encore and what I did the second week, I'm like, damn, I have 5 shots already. Like it's so quick and it's so fast, and your reel could go from junior to like mid-level in like 6 months. It's like you learn so much,
oh
but you
man,
have to be willing to learn it,
oh
and willing
man,
to stick through it. So for me, the gratifying part about it is that I'm working in an industry that I love,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, in that I'm seeing my stuff on screen and I'm learning so much and I'm doing things I didn't think I was capable of
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what keeps me going.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I want to make sure, hopefully it doesn't work. You always knowledge that's dropped. But to that, have you seen some or individuals that come in and do crack or aren't able to hack it, so to speak, with this just, or is it that they still have the passion to do it? But like I said, it is a lot of. I mean, like I said, that's just coming into it and then getting 5 shots,
Yeah.
and that's a lot that some
Yeah.
people may not be able to, hack. They didn't think that it was going to be kind of like that. Have you come across people that it did kind of, you know, get to them?
I have to say, with most of the people I've worked with, no, because I was like the only junior there.
Mm,
So it was intimidating. And I was always under the impression like I always have to prove myself. I mean, I have friends that work at other studios that have told me. I had a friend that told me that, when she was working at an apprenticeship, um, there were like 3 people, and
mm-hmm,
then one person didn't last a week, and he was like, I can't do this.
mm,
I've never personally worked with people that's happened to, because
yeah,
a lot of people I worked with had more years experience with me, and they knew
yeah.
but I definitely have spoken to people that had different perceptions of what,
What it was going to be, what the work was going
yes.
to. It's like, I
And
didn't think it was going to be like this.
no, I've spoken to artists that's been in this over 10 years, and some of them love it and are so enthusiastic
Yeah.
about it. And, one of the artists I worked with, well, he worked at Encore, but we worked together. And, when I started talking to him, he was like, yeah, I mean, I started here and then I started working on Supernatural, and I love Supernatural.
Yeah.
And then when he told me that story, I was like, that is so amazing. Like, to just be working with people that have worked on these projects that I've watched 10 years ago. I would never think that I'll be working with this person. And then I've spoken to other artists that's like, well, you put in what you get, and it pays well. And those kind of people,
Yeah.
mm, probably not the best people to speak to,
Yeah.
because as somebody who's new, it kind of discourages you
Yeah.
in a way. So I try to get different perspectives. For the most part, everyone
Yeah.
I've spoken to love what they do and are very passionate about it. This
Yeah.
is why, like, I was so blessed to like get the opportunity to work at Encore, because I was working with a group of people that loved what they were doing
Yeah.
and were so, adamant about, putting out quality work.
Yeah.
So I can say I'm very grateful for being around people that I didn't see most people
Yeah.
slacking off or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I would assume even the ones, like I said, that are seasoned, are passionate about it, have been there, have been doing it for 15, 20 years. I'm sure if you asked them what their experience was like when they first came in, it was, feeling overwhelmed with just, getting to learn the
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
process, you know?
yeah. I know one artist I was working with. He told me, and he said years ago he started at a studio, and you know he got trained to do what he was doing. And
Yeah.
I said, he was like, I was making $20 an hour, and they trained me. You're not gonna find that today,
Yeah.
but you're not finding that opportunity today. And they trained me to do this. And why is this saying that? Sorry. And I've been doing this a long time, but I tend to stick to certain shots that I know I can manage. And
Mm-hmm.
he's been doing this a long time,
Yeah.
because he's like, I don't do CG stuff for the most part. Yeah, I do only like, tracking, rotoscoping, green screen stuff. Because he said he's comfortable
Yeah.
in that. And
Yeah.
that's his zone, and that's what he's good at. And he's very good at, I think one time the supervisor said he's like the beautician, because we had a shot where there was a wig cap and we had to kind of, I guess, hide the edge,
Yeah.
and there's a certain tool that he used for it, and I was like, I never even heard of this before. You know, and I guess that's why they call him the beautician, because you can't see the edges.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was his specialty, and I feel like everybody finds what they're good at, and not
Yeah.
everybody is going to be a great CG integrator. I have not done that yet.
Yeah.
You know, I've done, you know, compositing. I haven't done CG integration or animation integration. I haven't done that yet. I would love to learn it, but I think everything comes in strides.
Yeah.
And certain things they give to certain people with more experience too. You have to
Yeah.
work towards it.
Well, have you, to this point, kind of found or started to discover that lane that you like him? That's what these are the type of shots that I like working on, or are you still at this point where you like doing a lot of different things, whether it's color grading, whether it's CG, you know, whatever it may be, you know, compositing wise?
I do like doing a little bit of everything, um, because I feel for me like I don't want to get stuck in this, and you could be a master of something and that's great, but then I don't want to get tired of something. So I think for me, being at Encore and working on so many different shots, I actually enjoyed it because I learned something new with everyone, and it just made it so much more appealing to work, because every day you don't know what you're going to get,
Yeah.
you know. And I'm still at a level where I'm still trying to master tracking and master rotoscoping. And for any comp, rotoscoping is very important. It's
Yeah.
like it's like the basic fundamental skill. You have to know the roto, key, and track. And it might not be the most funnest thing to do, and it's very time consuming, but it's something that you have to know how to do, period. And I'm
Yeah.
still at that level where I want to get comfortable enough. So I do a little bit of everything. I really would like to work on CG integration now,
Mm.
because I love creatures, and
Yeah.
I've seen some reels, like Encore's reel is very cool. Like they have some really nice CG characters on there. And I remember talking to the creative director one day, like before I got the job, and I was like, oh my gosh, another fangirl moment. I was like, I looked at the reel is so amazing. I can't wait to be doing this one day. And he was like, you'll get there. It just takes time. And to hear that from someone who's been doing it
Yeah.
for so long, it
Yeah.
just it I feel like everything is just in strides. But
Yeah.
right now I'm at a level where I want to dabble in every little thing, but mostly focusing on the core fundamentals, which is tracking, rotoscoping, and keying.
Yeah.
Because you could be a phenomenal keyer too.
Yeah.
Like there was an artist at Encore that was a phenomenal keyer, and everyone went to her for stuff. But you know, I haven't found. I just kind of like to do different things
Yeah.
at this current moment.
Yeah, tracking's fun, but you realize when it's like, man, this shot here
You
is
said
hard.
fun?
Well, I mean, if you get a
That's not
shot
the word to
that's
use.
if you get a shot that's easy to track, it's fun. But you,
Exactly,
like I
because I'm
said,
like, tracking is
like I said,
fun.
you get those shots, man. This tracking is just not working right.
Have you done 3D tracking though? 3D tracking?
I haven't done 3D. I've done like just
You would change that fun to aggravated in 1 second.
yeah. I just done
It's
a couple of
3D is
2D
not.
tracking.
Yeah, yeah. Because 3D is in space,
Yeah,
so there's little pointers and little green dots, and my green dots just never stick.
yeah.
So it's definitely different.
Yeah, maybe I should stop looking at the ones that make it seem so easy, you know.
Or look up some 3D tracking videos on YouTube.
Oh man, Miss Aisha, VFX equals patience by the power of infinity. Good job, sis.
Agreed.
I will stay in my 2D lane. Yeah, we talked about that last week with Aisha. She loves her 2D lane, not 3D. Uh, Mr. Michael, let me slide this over. working in your field is definitely a different vibe from a regular job. Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm guessing, working in your passion, I'll say, because there are some people that have a regular like 9 to 5 job that's what they love to do. It's their
Yeah,
job,
yeah,
but I think it's just a satisfaction knowing that you're
exactly.
making a living doing what you love to do, whatever that
Yes,
may be, and seeing, especially I think in the film industry, seeing people's reaction to what you do and how they resonate with what you do. I think that's a different kind of gratification as far as an artist when you create something and you see people resonate with what you created. Really does is a really kind of high drug, you could almost say. Uh, Mr. Antoine, nice projects. I mean, and we're gonna take a look at
thank
Amanda's
you.
reel in a minute there, for sure. Mr. DeMille, enjoyed watching Fear. Definitely a great film for sure.
Thank you.
Uh, the VFX process can be taxing. Can be a little
Facts, facts.
taxing. And like I said, I and I don't know. Maybe you feel this way. I think it's just gonna get even harder and harder as films just get more realistic. The effects, what audiences are expecting, as far as the effects that come out of movies, and
Yeah,
movies are so VFX heavy driven. It seems like now, it's just I think gonna just get more and more. Michael, what are you laughing at, my brother? For not sure. Antoine, great advice. And Manda, well said, and that can apply to other disciplines in art as well. Definitely, for sure. Arlene Price, appreciate you tuning in.
oh, that's my aunt.
We're
My
proud
whole family's
auntie.
on here.
Hey, support your family. I love it for sure. Oh man, and Miss Granny, it's been a minute. I'm glad you're back, Miss Maggie. That's my cousin. So I appreciate you
Oh
tuning
yeah, I've
in,
seen her
Maggie.
on other. Yeah,
Yeah, Miss Maggie is always a great supporter for sure. Mr. Antoine, yeah, you have to be around passion artists and people in the
yes,
VFX industry. Stray away from those negative folks. Yeah, that'll definitely suck
agreed.
the life out of you for sure. Um, you're like I said, we're gonna dive a little deeper into it for sure. We talked about this, before the episode, which was surprising to me that you said that you didn't see a lot of, black females in compositing and getting into compositing. Um,
Yeah, we're kind of. It's not a lot of us in general. Not that many women, and not that many women of color.
yeah,
Um, it's very, for me, it's very disheartening. Um, because as a young black woman, even growing up and wanting to get into certain careers, I mean, I have idols that aren't women of color,
yeah,
but it's nice and it makes it seem like it's something that's achievable when you see others do
yeah,
it. And to not see any, it's it's just it's kind of despondent. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's
No,
it's it's not something that um
I feel you.
um
Trust me, I really do. Because
yeah,
again, it's the main one of the main reasons, like I said, why
yeah,
I started the show. Because, like I said, and you said it earlier, you wanted to be a cartoonist. I wanted to
yeah,
be a comic strip artist, cartoonist when I was young, and I loved the comics that I read. I was a big Peanuts fan. That was my
yeah,
I was a diehard Peanuts fan, but I didn't see characters or creators that looked like me.
me,
Not that
yeah.
it dissuaded me from wanting to do it, but I know it's a different vibe when you can see
It
somebody
is.
else. Wow,
It is.
he's black and he's creating this great comic strip. I can do it. It's a different vibe when you see somebody. So I know how important that is to see somebody that looks like you and doing the work that you want to do. So hopefully this will inspire more women of color to get into VFX. Like I said, I kind of figured there were weren't as many women of color, but I would have thought there were more women just as compositors.
There are some, not many. I mean, where I was working at, there were maybe four women,
Wow, that's
five.
amazing. Yeah,
I could count them on one hand. How many, women compositors there were? It wasn't a lot. The head of compositing was a woman, which is
yeah,
good,
yeah,
excellent, but there wasn't a lot of women compositors in
yeah.
general.
That's
It's
surprising.
definitely a male-dominated field, anyways. You know, and really only 26% of executive rank jobs in film industry are women, and
Yeah,
only 5% are women of color.
yeah,
So that alone in itself, and I was telling you earlier that my main goal is, being an on-set VFX supervisor, and how low that is for women of color. It's 0.5%.
yeah.
It's absolutely, that's horrendous. It's almost like we're invisible in leadership roles.
Wow.
And to me, that's a big problem. And I think that's one of the main driving forces for me, because as a Caribbean woman who's Black, I want, and not just a young Black girl, but any young girl, or any
Yeah,
young immigrant girl, or any even young American girl, to say she did it,
yeah,
I could do
yeah,
it too.
yeah,
She made it. And there's going to be hurdles no matter what, because the industry itself is rough regardless, but it's that much rougher when you're a woman,
yeah,
when you're a
yeah,
woman of color.
yeah,
you know it's, and there needs to be more discussions. There needs to be more, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of companies that are doing diversity and inclusion, and they create these roles, diversity and inclusion,
yeah,
but your company is still not diverse.
yeah,
So what exactly are you doing?
yeah,
So it looks nice on paper, but what initiatives are actually being, what's being done? What's you know what mentorship programs do you have? What
yeah,
I know, when I was working at, because Company 3 owns Encore. Company 3 has a, I forgot the name of the program, and I had gotten involved in it, where, they would go around to like different schools, and, kind of get people to speak, to get
yeah,
new people on board, to make it more diverse, and just present the opportunity that it's there.
yeah,
And I think more companies should be doing that.
yeah. I
I
definitely
feel
feel the
like
same way.
in the last 2 years, like, they've created these, I call them, let's be real. So, diversity and
Let's.
inclusion, in and of itself, right?
Yeah,
It sounds good.
yeah,
It looks good.
yeah,
You need to fill some kind of quota.
yeah,
But what are you doing really? Because if your statistics remain the same, then you're not doing anything.
yeah,
If I'm, I've seen a few companies on LinkedIn that say at the little, the end of their ad, like, minorities are encouraged to apply, and
yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that. Like, it's a good thing, but it makes it seem like, it I feel
It's
like there are
like a
better ways to
sticker.
go about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like, there
almost
are
like
better
a
ways.
band-aid to, instead of healing
Yeah.
and curing the process, they're sticking a band-aid on. And we mentioned
Yeah.
this earlier, like I said, which is why I continue to strive, and for all you executives that may catch this or watch this, I would love to have you come on and really talk about it, because until we have this discussion, and like I said, some studios are doing better than others with really actively kind of going out there. But
Yeah.
I still always say all of the studios still have a long way to go, especially the higher up you get into
Yeah.
into the company. They
Yeah.
may be hiring the lower level, artists and things like that. But when you get into the boardroom and those, like you
The
said,
executives are, yeah, or
executive
it's the,
supervisor, compositor, get into the more executive roles, it's still
yeah,
basically the same. So
it's the
all the
same.
studios still have a long way to go when it comes to
Yeah,
really. And I think if it, and I used to say, if your company and you as a person was, really a diverse person, and had people and friends outside of your normal circle, there would really be no need for diversity and inclusion department, because
exactly,
you'd be naturally hiring people that,
exactly.
are just going to give you that different perspective. So I don't know. I mean, not to knock diversity and inclusion officers out there, because
Yeah,
you're doing it, but if the culture was just an inclusive culture naturally, you
exactly. And
wouldn't
that's part of the
need,
problem.
yeah, you wouldn't really need a diversity and
Yeah,
inclusion department. Or I don't. Hopefully, I'm explaining that right. And I think
yeah,
that comes down to an individual type of thing, especially, for sure. So, I'm hoping my desire is that, we'll start to see more diverse, more women of color, um, more. Like I said, I still have yet to get a Native American on the show. I don't think
yeah,
I've come across, and I'm sure there are out there. I'm
yeah,
trying to connect, but it's just like you said, it's not something that is shown, and people aren't really knowing that they're out there, that there are Native Americans out there that are in the
yeah,
industry and creating that stuff. So how are you going to attract, people uh, of different, cultures into this space? For sure, Mr. DeMille. Please don't get me started on diversity.
and
I'm
Demille
gonna
could
I'm
write a
gonna
book
have a
on that.
panel. My goal is to have a panel and really have a good kind of round table discussion about this, because it's interesting. Just in, like I said, I'm on season 3, and I've had a chance to make friends with a lot of different people in the industry, and it's interesting their personal perspective on it. On just the industry, the lack of diversity, the lack of seeing people of color, and it's funny how,
Yeah,
you know some will say, yeah, when they get into the art studio, the first person they look for is to see if there's another black or another person of color in the studio.
and it's not even it's like a subconscious thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't realize you're even doing it. Like I know I did too, and I was like, damn, am I the only one? That can't be right. There's no way. There, I was like, nah, this is not. We're not doing this. And then I
Oh,
found
man.
later on there was another one. I was like, yes, not only me,
Oh,
but
man.
there's not a lot. I'm telling you, I have much to work with here. I'm trying to
Uh,
stick it out the best I can, but it's difficult.
like you said, it's a subconscious thing that we just naturally
Yeah,
do. It's like
I don't do it on purpose. It's just there.
it's just there. Oh, man. Oh, man. So what was it? I had to say it because it was funny. Dave Chappelle did a joke about him being on an airplane that got hijacked, or it's just a joke about him. And there was one other black on there, and they were both looking at each other like, "We know what's going. We're not gonna be the ones taken hostage." So we just had this connection. That's just like, it's just a funny thing. Oh, man, let's take a quick look before we dive into some more. Like I said, I can talk. Wow, we're hitting 2 hours. Definitely trying to be respectful of my guest time, but definitely want to make sure that we check out Amanda's amazing work that she's done. Hopefully, we'll get through this here. But let's take a quick look here. Well, we just saw a little bit of Amanda's work there. You're working on a documentary uh, for your social change in your native Jamaica.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. Why you felt the need to start that, and where you're hoping to kind of take it.
It's been a work in progress. So when 2020 came around and everything happened with the riots, and um, I was going around to different demonstrations and doing kind of like the whole filming doc, because I love documentary filmmaking. Um, and getting my own footage and stuff, and at first I was going to do something about that, and then within like a year there was like 5 or 6 documentaries out that was about like BLM and everything that was going on in 2020, and all the movements, and I was like, damn, I can't do this no more, because it's like it's too late. Like, everything is a time.
Yeah.
It's not gonna, I don't think no one, I don't want to say that, but it would have been more impactful if I did it 2 years ago. And then I was like, I want to really do something that I'm passionate about. That's a passion project for me. And then it took a few different turns. And first I wanted to chronicle like the immigrant experience. And then I changed that because I'm like, well, the immigrant experience entails so much. Do I want it to be about my personal experience, or do I want it to be about every immigrant from the Caribbean? And it was just so hard. So now I kind of, after going back home, I went back home last year, then I went back home again in February, and there were just a lot of things that really bothered me
Mm-hmm.
about the country, a lot of corruption, um, a lot of changes that's going on to the locals that's really wrong. And now Jamaica's doing something where they're closing off like public access to the beaches. There's
Oh, really?
400 miles of beaches, and locals only have access to 20 miles. you know um,
So
a
what are
lot
they
of
doing with the rest of it?
it's only accessed by tourism. So
Oh,
now a lot of
wow.
people come in and they sell a lot of things,
Yeah.
some highways, different properties to Americans, Chinese, and there's, I feel like the country is losing, the natives are losing their own country, the
Yeah.
foreigners. And it's just been a lot of, and not to speak ill of it, and everywhere has corruption, but I'm speaking of it because it's where I'm from and it's something that's important to me. So I feel like certain things need to be highlighted, and I also want to highlight just my journey as a Jamaican woman and coming to this country and what coming to this country means for me. So it's, I don't have a definitive like log line yet, but I'm kind of working towards that. And that's kind of where I am with that right now. So it's been like a work in progress.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to do a lot more this year, because I would probably have to go back home at some point again. And there were some things that some parts of the country are more built up than other parts. And, when I went back to my hometown and I saw how dilapidated the hospital was, I was floored. I
Wow.
was so floored, because I'm like, if anyone knows about Port Antonio, Blue Lagoon is like a super big tourism spot. And there's so many people, rich people, who come, and,
Yeah.
these villas on the side of Blue Lagoon are like $2,000 a night.
Yeah.
But then the hospital is broken down, the roads aren't fixed, and
Yeah.
it's just like, where's the money going? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's, that's something that's dear to me and important to me, because it's like, where the funds aren't being allocated right. What is the government doing?
Yeah.
And it might step on a lot of toes, but it needs to be addressed. And it's
Well,
it's something that's been going on for a long time.
yeah, and that's interesting because, like I said, Aisha, from Barbados, last week we were kind of talking about the same thing as far as just, mentioning the government and corruption and like you said, allocation of funds not going right. Obviously, we have our over here
Yeah,
corrupt
yeah,
politicians as well, but it's not. It doesn't seem as kind of out and out prevalent as it is in
yeah,
kind of like the islands and some other
Yeah,
areas
of
like
course,
Mexico,
of
and
course.
just other areas where the government is just blatantly, corrupt and doing things.
Yeah.
So it's sad to see. But are you in that same vein kind of encouraged about the talent or the creative talent coming from Jamaica? Um, that's
Oh yeah.
there.
I mean, one of my personal things that I wanted to do, I wanted to at the time, which was a few years ago, I wanted to create some kind of nonprofit or something, like a young artist nonprofit, mainly focusing on like women. I don't
Yeah,
want to exclude men, but that's just kind of where
yeah,
my heart is right now. I'm a young Black woman.
yeah,
So, and I know Wayne, I don't know if Wayne is
yeah.
watching.
Wayne Carnegie's big. Yeah,
Big up yourself, Wayne, if y'all watch. But
yeah. I'm not even gonna try,
um,
Wayne, to get the accent. So I just let it. I'll digress and let a man to do that.
Wayne does a phenomenal job of, you know, working with
Mm,
schools back
yeah,
home and, hiring artists that are Jamaican. And not that you can't hire other artists, it's
yeah.
just the opportunity
Community.
sometimes is not there.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you'll see when I was down there, perfect example. I was in the lagoon and I met this rich woman who was like the princess of some country I've never heard of. But she is in Jamaica, like, and has all this land.
Wow.
And I'm just like, why can't somebody in Jamaica have this?
Yeah.
Like, why is it so easy for someone to come from
Outside the
another
country. Yeah.
country
Outside
and
the
do
country.
this?
Yeah.
But you have people here who are talented who aren't getting the opportunity. And that's kind of what I want to create, like an opportunity, like a liaison between my country and here, anywhere I am for that matter,
Yeah.
for young artists, for women who want to do things that aren't seen as celebratory enough, or because there's phenomenal. When I was back home, wood making and carving is a big thing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I saw some phenomenal, and they just sit and they just
Carve. Yeah.
just do it, and I'm like, I could never
Yeah.
like do something like that. And I was talking to someone about this the other day, and it's just like in the Black community in general, I feel like certain things are seen as weird when Black people do it, and
Yeah.
they're not as celebrated. Like, I feel like I don't want to say feel like, I'm in a lot of Black nerd groups called Blurds,
Yeah.
and we discuss things like cosplaying and horror makeup and conventions and things that almost are seen as not Black enough, and I feel like the art realm is kind of, in a way, in that it's like, if you're Black and you're speaking about artistry,
Yeah.
any kind of artistry, it's not seen as, oh, you're just doing that on the side. Like, you're talented, but where are you going to go with it? Kind of
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
And that mentality needs to be erased. And I feel like that's why a lot of Black people, up and coming, they don't inspire to do things that are in any kind of artistry. And I'm not just saying, because art is broad
Yeah.
and that could mean many things. But if I tell somebody right now I'm an artist, oh, but what kind do you paint? It's like, it's not connecting that there's so many different forms of art
Yeah.
that you could have, that you could be successful in. And it's something that I feel like is not talked about enough. It's not pushed
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to mention Wayne again. I think Wayne does a phenomenal job of getting his work out there,
Yeah.
you know, reaching different Caribbean communities.
Yeah.
He's even doing something with Guyana now, I think. And I
Mm.
think initiatives like that, where you're going out and you're saying, here, he introduced me to like all these new Jamaican animation groups that I mean, I'm not an animator, but still, for
Yeah.
me to be in that, you know,
Community. Yeah. You'll
it's
connect with
still,
people. Yeah.
and that's the thing. And I'm just like, there needs to be more of that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's slowly edging, but it's just not where it should be.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm in America, so there's more opportunities, obviously, and even though we have our hurdles and stuff here, there's still opportunity, and you can
Yeah.
still try. When you're back home, I can't do VFX work in Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Yeah.
not there,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
So it's that's kind of what I wanted to create
Yeah.
for young women who have this interest
Yeah.
in this kind of work.
Well, that's kind of like what we were talking about a little before. That I'm really hoping that, and praying that more creatives, such as yourself, such as Wayne, such as what Aisha is doing, really do bring back into their own country of choice. And you're kind of starting to see that with creators over in Africa. So I'm encouraged
Oh
that
yeah,
as even ones that are coming to here or going to Canada to work at studios or this and that, they see the need to sow back into their own country, to
exactly,
really
exactly.
inspire other creators that we can create things, we can start to build studios here and really start to make an industry. If your
Yeah,
choice is to go out to another country such as Canada or here, but still, like I said, go back and
yeah,
teach and share your skills and your knowledge. I hope creators here go back to their relative cities where they grew up in, because I'm sure a lot of us as people of color weren't exposed to studios coming into the schools, its
exactly,
programs.
exactly,
Doing those kind of things are really what's going to help build. So it's not a handout, it's a hand up, kind of
exactly,
thing. And that's what I hope more people start to do more of, and professionals start to really do more of, for sure. Let's throw a few more comments up here before we kind of close it out here. We've had an amazing conversation again. For those just joining in, minus the technical difficulties. Don't say anything. Don't say anything, Antoine, because I know you're thinking it for sure. I know Antoine's thinking it. Mr. Downtown, exceptional work for sure. Appreciate that. Or
you Demille.
Downtown, Demille. Appreciate that for sure. Of course, Antoine says dope, solid stuff. Amanda.
Thank you.
Miss Rachel, why
Oh,
again?
it's
Sorry.
okay.
Yeah, sorry you tuned in late, but hey, we appreciate you tuning in, and you're always able to go back and check out the episode for sure. So appreciate you supporting Amanda. Appreciate everybody that always tunes in and checks out the show. I do apologize for any technical little difficulties there, but hey, uh, the most important thing is the information. That's what I try and focus on.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
information that goes out, and as long as the information is good, uh, I'm good with it. But definitely, I am going to reach out because I do want to have like a panel, kind of bring a bunch of people on, Demille, Antoine, a bunch of other people, and really just have a hash out round table kind of talk where Deborah. I think that'll be really interesting for sure. Have Deborah on because I know Deborah's another outspoken one. I love her and
Yeah,
Andre.
she's very outspoken.
Yeah, and I don't know if I don't know if you know Andre Rodriguez. He's another one I want to get back on. he's
Oh
he
my gosh.
he's a straight shooter as well, so I can appreciate that for sure. But like I said, I try to be so respectful of my guest time and your time as viewers as well. And this has been such an amazing, amazing episode. And like I told you, Amanda, I've been wanting to get you on for a long time because, again, I haven't had very many. I think you're the only compositor, VFX compositor
Yeah, I
woman that
think
I've had
so.
on. Yeah, so
Yeah, I was
really,
counting. I was counting.
yeah. I mean, I've had some VFX people, but you're the first woman and definitely the first black woman uh, VFX compositor. So hopefully, this will inspire more women and particularly women of color to get into the industry because it is a great industry. A lot of work, but
Yeah,
anything
but
that
it's gratifying work.
yeah, anything worth having is going to be work. Anything that you want to have
Sacrifices.
is going to
Yeah.
be worth work. Um, and to that, just this last question, um, what what do you feel like you've sacrificed for this dream that you're in now?
Oh man, everything. Everything. I mean, I was working, and I talk to DeMille about this all the time because he is motivational. Um, and we're kind of in the same boat. But you know, I was working to, what you said of in my bio. I was working, going from corporation to corporation. Even though I had the graphic design degree, I just couldn't get anything
Yeah,
in New York. And sometimes I think things happen in, not even sometimes, all the time. Nothing, I don't think anything is coincidence.
no,
And,
I don't either.
I was just not happy like working in corporate because I knew like I'm an artist. This is
Yeah,
not what I want to do. And, when I got laid off from that publishing job in New York, I said, God, this must be the time because, I don't see nothing else happening. And I was just so sick of day in and day out of doing things that were not meaningful or
yeah,
purposeful to my life. And anyone who's ever stuck in a situation where you feel like you're just going through the motions of life, then you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
yeah,
And then I made a decision to move. That's why I came here in 2013, not just for the convention, but to, is this somewhere that suits me? Is this where I'm supposed to be? And I left everything back in New York, everything, family, friends, cats, um, you know, boyfriend, everything, just
just to
back and
yeah,
just pursue for me, because the most detrimental thing you could do for yourself is to live your life for other people.
yeah,
And if you're not in pursuit of what you really want in life, you are going to be so miserable. And I
yeah,
was for so long. And then when I got here, I didn't know what I was getting into. The culture's different. I'm Jamaican, so it was really hard because Cali life and New York life is not the same. There were
no,
no Jamaican spots. I couldn't find no jerk chicken. It was just like, this ain't it. This is not
what? No jerk
this.
chicken?
There's no oxtail, no nothing. Now I'm getting better because I found a Jamaican spot in Rancho Cucamonga, and they got real Jamaicans in there. And I'm
But
telling you, the food is fire. But it just took a little
it took a
time
little
for
searching.
I'm telling you, it took a while because New York, every corner you go on, you good. But
Yeah,
it's
man.
different out here. It's a different life. So it took a while. I shipped my car. It took a while for me
Yeah,
to really get assimilated and find my place. And I was still going, to school when I
yeah,
got over here. I was in my second year of my master's, and it was the first 6 months was so depressing. And I
yeah,
said, God, if you brought me here, you're gonna get me through this.
yeah,
And I tell myself that every day, and I have struggled.
yeah,
I'm telling you, only God knows
yeah,
how I have struggled.
yeah,
To get myself to network, to meet people. I
yeah.
never used to utilize LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like my best friend now.
I tell you,
I
love it.
that's how we met,
That's how we
and
met. I met
you just
everybody through
networking and
LinkedIn.
linked. You have to get on there, and I never had a VFX or animation or any community at all, until I started going to the academy and I met different people, and now I have a whole network of
Yeah,
people that I can talk to and rely on and ask advice about. And it's still hard for me
yeah.
because California is it's not an easy place to live.
No,
It's
I
very
wouldn't want to live
expensive.
there. I wouldn't want to,
It's
honestly.
I'm telling. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love it because it's where could you find the snow and the beach in the same place? Nowhere else in the world. I love it for that, and I love exploring, and I love going to different places. But
It's too
if
expensive.
you, it's very expensive, and if you aren't super passionate about what you want to do,
Yeah.
I would not advise you to make a jump like I did. I knew what I wanted,
Yeah.
and I had 100% faith in myself that it would happen, and I put
Yeah.
into work.
Yeah.
You know,
To get
you
it
have
done.
to put into work.
Yeah. Yeah. For
You
sure.
know, but I'm
And
a person.
no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I'm a person of God, and I'm
Yeah.
a person of faith, and for me, you know, faith without work is dead.
Yeah.
So you can pray all day, but if you ain't gonna put into work
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
do what you need to do, then you're not gonna get where you need to get.
Yeah.
Period. Point blank. I work very hard.
Yeah.
So anything I've achieved, I deserve it. And sometimes as artists, you're harsh on yourself, and you're harsh on your work, and you're sometimes, why am I not getting this job? Why am I not this? Just trust the process.
Yeah.
You're doing what you're supposed to do. Just and my advice to anyone that wants to get into this industry: do your research. Yeah, do your research, connect with people. Me personally, honestly, I don't do a lot of job application.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of that. What I do instead, I go on LinkedIn and I network with people who are ahead, with people who are supervisors, with
Yeah.
people who've been in the field
Build a
that can direct
relationship.
me, yeah, to the right place. I mean, if you're going to be filling out and don't get me wrong, you got to do that regardless because it's just a part of it. But the difference between going to a networking event and speaking to someone, them actually putting a face to your name and knowing your personality, gets you in the door quicker than you sending in your application with 200 other people.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to stay up late if you have to.
Yeah.
Go to these events if you have to. Be on LinkedIn every day like I do if you have to. Keep working on your personal projects. Keep pushing your craft. And don't get me wrong, like, there are times where you're not gonna have a job. You're just not, and then you're waiting on the next contract. In the interim, you have to pay your bills. Do what you got to do to pay your bills.
Yeah.
You know, no one's
Yeah.
not saying not to do that, but just, you always have to be on top of your game all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've experienced the same thing, but I find it hard to talk to people that aren't pursuing their dream and you're trying to pursue your dream. Because and I say this in particular with my
Yeah.
family. I love them, but sometimes they don't understand the choices and the decisions I make because I'm trying to, follow this thing that I want
Oh
to
yeah.
do and want to build. So finding, like you said, a community of people is
Yes.
so crucial because
Super
you'll quit
important.
if you're passionate
In
about
a
something.
heartbeat.
You'll and surround yourself around people that aren't doing the same thing as far as going after what they want as a dream. They're dream killers, and they'll kill your dream
Yes.
so quick
Yes.
and discourage you
Yes.
from continuing to move on. So find a community. Surround yourself around people that are like-minded, that have kind of the same goal and the same vision, and they're trying to achieve their dream. That only keeps you going in those tough times when you aren't working or work's not coming in,
Exactly.
type of thing. So please, if you don't get anything else from this, that's the one thing I do try, because I'm a big proponent of, we can make our own reality. It's just, are you willing to put the
Absolutely.
work in to make it real, and do it? So anything worth having is going to take work and going to take you giving up something to get something.
Absolutely.
Uh, so this has been an amazing show, and I cannot wait to get you back on, Amanda. Like I tell Demille and like I tell so many others, I'm, you know, I'm not worried about where you're going to wind up, because I know what you do and the skills that you have, and I know that an opportunity that doesn't itself just leaves room for a better opportunity to come. That's what I tell
Facts.
myself, and I know that for sure for you as well. So, with that, like I said, this has been, I'm going to have a lot of content, 2 hours and 30 minutes. I'm going to have. I'm gonna have a lot of shorts here for sure. But this has been fun. I hope this was a good experience for you, Amanda. I know, like I said,
Yes,
people
it
come on
was.
here a little nervous, a little
Some questions
shy.
were hard though.
Yeah. Well, like I told Aisha last week, it ain't all fluff now. I try and get some deep questions in.
Yes, those questions are hard now. You got me wanting to look up Unreal and everything that they're working on now.
Hey, just if you've seen the Mandalorian is kind of their big thing. That, like I said, everybody
Okay.
kind of knows Unreal. They use Unreal in Mandalorian, but it's like I said, I
It's
think,
actually a big requirement now too
yeah, that's what I
for
said.
artists to know Unreal. Yeah.
Unreal used to be kind of the game engine type of thing, but
Yes,
I think when
yes.
it got in the hands of filmmakers and they started using it in their whole process of making films, that's when Unreal started to really take off, I think. And
Wow.
which is why I love tools in the hands of creatives. You find just amazing things come out of it because the tool may not necessarily have been made for that, but when you put it
Exactly.
in the hands of a creative, they'll think of different ways that they can use it and just take it up to another level. And I think that's the case with why Unreal is such an in-demand thing now, because
Got
they
it. Yeah.
see the potential of what can be done with it, and it's real time. So, and it's free, so you can't beat
Yeah,
that.
which Nuke is not. They got to do something about that because 10 G's
Oh man.
ain't coming
Uh,
easy.
but I am encouraged about, like I said, tools now becoming available. Like I said, now is a great time for creators because
Yeah.
technology is getting better, hardware is getting better, tools are, there's more available tools now out there. Like I said,
Yes. And a lot
and
of free trials too
yeah,
that,
a lot of free trials, a lot of open source software. Blender is starting to really gain ground
I've heard. Yeah.
and what it can be done with it. DaVinci Resolve, and they're an amazing tool as well. So there's just a lot of affordable, available tools now that are just out there now that creators can get their hands on and really start to get the ideas that are in their head out. So that's why I'm
Yes.
really encouraged and really love this time that we live in. Just some closing comments before we round it out here. Of course, Demille had to put his preach in again. So appreciate that, Demille. We're having a good time, Demille. It's at your expense, but hey, we love you, Demille. You know I love you, bro. You know I love you. Mr. Antoine, 100% for sure. Let me get his comment up here. 100%, you have to put in that work. And you
Thank you,
go,
Antoine.
Amanda. Put in the work. Yes, so your damn money when you are working, for sure.
That's
Save your
right.
damn money when you're working, for
That's
sure.
right.
Well done. Well done, my friend. Appreciate that. And I know Amanda appreciates you supporting
Thank
her as
you,
well.
Demille.
Arlene, well done, Amanda.
It's
Like I
my
said,
aunt again.
like I told Amanda before the show, I knew this was going to be a good one. Technical difficulties aside, I knew it was going to be a great episode because I knew she had a lot of value to bring and a lot of great insight to bring. That's why I'm so excited to have her back on the show for sure. So, with that, Amanda, if you could for just a minute hang out in the green room while I close out the show. But
Okay.
everybody, please again help me thank Amanda Price for coming on and really sharing some great information for sure. So thanks, Amanda. Hang out for just a second
Of
there.
course.
Everybody, I appreciate you guys hanging with me as always. Like I said, this was a little sticky here. Not quite as bad as yours, Antoine, but like I said, I think it came off pretty good. And definitely, like I said, looking forward to really having a round table. I've been kicking that idea around in my head, and I think now I want to reach out to a bunch of the previous uh, friends and guests that have been on the show and have a nice round table discussion because I think everybody would have a interesting perspective about a lot of different things going on in the industry. Some people are in a different season than others. Some are working at studios. Others are, in between and looking for work. So I think just having a great perspective from a lot of different creatives would be fun to do for sure. So look for that in the upcoming month, or so to have a good. I got to reach out to everybody and see, coordinate all the dates and everything. So again, I appreciate as always everybody tuning in and checking out the show, supporting the channel. Please, if you know of a creative that could benefit from this, whether they're a compositor, whether they're a game artist, whether they're a filmmaker, whatever it is, share this with them or invite them to the show to check out the show for sure. Because, like I said, my goal is to really grow this community and make it a really good creative space that we can all connect and learn from one another. Again, I so appreciate everybody for always supporting the show. Um, Make sure that you tune in next week because it's going to be even a better show. We're going to have more fun. Looking forward to welcoming my next week's guest, Mr. Uh, Ayub. I always pronounce his name wrong. Baramov. 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 I'm sorry. Baramov. Looking forward to having him on 3D Animator coming onto the show. I think he's my first guest from Aberjaban. That's a tongue twister. But he's going to be on the show. We're looking forward to having a great time for sure. Make sure that you join me next week. Of course, as always, same bat time, same bat channel. Have a great weekend, everybody. Cheers.